Good evening and welcome to the January 23rd, 2018 regular business meeting of the School District of Indian River County School Board. This meeting is being televised on local cable as well as streamed on YouTube. Hereby call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is I ask you to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and flag and presentation of colors by Vero Beach High School's Air Force Junior ROTC Detachment 043 under the direction of Wade Deuce, Chief Master Sergeant, retired aerospace. That's not right. This is Sebastian River High School. Okay.
Lieutenant Commander Jim Landis.
Lieutenant Commander Jim Landis. You're recognized.
And salute. Ready to post. March. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Left. Left. Color guard. Halt. Order. Colors. Ready, cut. Color guard. Voila.
All right, may be seated. Thank you, Sebastian River High School Junior ROTC Navy Cadets, for that outstanding performance. Hoorah. All right, the next order of business is the adoption of the orders of the day. Are there any items board members wish to move from the consent agenda to the action agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Searcy with a motion and Mrs. Simchek with a second. Would either of you like to speak to your motion or second? Any
Nothing.
discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Ms. Nancy. Okay. And our next order of business is our presentations. Dr. Rendell, you're recognized for presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We actually have a lot to celebrate tonight. We're going to open with 2 video presentations of some great things going on in the district, and a celebration that we had last night will be featured in one of the videos. Then we have some presentations. We're going to give out some money that's been raised in the district, but we're going to receive some money that's been raised in our community that'll go to work in our district. We're going to give out some awards to some students, and one of our very own employees is going to receive a very, very special award. But right now, we're going to start with 2 video presentations, so if you could turn your attention to the video screens, and we'll start with those.
Well, today we're at Storm Grove Middle School and I'm really excited. We're starting the Indian River County School Recycling Pilot Program. It's a long name, but essentially we're bringing recycling to all the classrooms, all the offices, in the hallways, outside, and in the cafeteria, which is where we are right now. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna come up to my little disposal station here, dump their liquids, then they'll go over to the recycling container, toss their bottles, cans, cartons, and any type of plastic containers that they have, toss those in the recycling, and then the rest of the things that should be on their plate goes right into the garbage. Recycling is one of those valuable lessons that teach kids that it's important not to be wasteful. It's important to look at what you have and see that it's actually a resource. I work for the county. I'm the recycling coordinator. I went and approached the school district and told them that I would love to kind of help get a recycling program in the schools. So we're recycling, instead of just throwing it in the garbage where it's going to be buried in a landfill somewhere, we want to take it, we want to reuse it and make it into something new.
I just think this is a wonderful collaboration between the school district and Indian River County, because we're teaching our students how to be good citizens of the earth and how to just be responsible, and these are very important life skills that we're bringing to the students, and I'm just really excited to be working and having this partnership with the county.
Well, we're really excited about this program. It's a great opportunity to spread the word about recycling. The county's under a mandate from the state to meet 75% recycling by 2020. Recycling in the schools is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to partner with the school district, and we kind of spread the word to the students, and we hope that message goes home and they tell mom and dad, okay, let's make sure we're recycling if they're not recycling at home, so you get a double benefit there. And so it's just a great opportunity.
Each year, Waste Management donates thousands of dollars through our Think Green grant program to organizations that are promoting a green movement in the community. So this recycling program at the schools was the perfect project for us to partner with.
At Pelican Island, we are extremely excited to be a part of the recycling initiative, and here at Pelican Island we are taking it a step further as an environmental campus, and we are taking our compostable trays, which Food Services has been fortunate to support us with. We're going to be putting them into an industrial size shredder, and then we're going to be taking them from the industrial shredder and bringing them out to a composter, which we have on campus. We're really trying to show the kids how recycling leads back to feeding the earth so that we can continue to provide for ourselves. So we're really excited about that, and we hope that everyone has an opportunity to come and check it out.
I love to go out into the community and work at vendor tables and talk to folks about recycling, and a lot of times I can't tell you how many times an adult has looked at me, they look at their small child and they said, this is the reason right here that I recycle. They're the ones that really bring it into the community and get the adults excited about it. So that's why it's so important to bring it into the schools and get them pumped up about it.
The School District of Indian River County Teachers and Employees of the Year were honored at the Stars of the Year Gala on Monday night. The Sebastian River High School Performing Arts Center stage was set with red carpets and stanchions to welcome 22 teachers and 25 employees representing our district schools. Hundreds of supporters, including principals, peers, and students, poured in, wearing school mascot costumes and pulling wagons of school flair. Multiple performances, including Storm Grove Middle School Orchestra, Storm Grove Middle School Jazz Band, Sebastian River High School Encore, and Mr. Jody Brown on piano, lit up the night and showcased our students and staff's incredible talent. Our teachers and employees walked across the stage to their personal introduction videos as the crowd went wild. Our school board members and Superintendent Dr. Mark Rendell took the stage to personally congratulate each teacher and employee and present them with a special recognition plaque. Kate Fiore and Jennifer Riddick addressed the crowd with inspiring and passionate speeches detailing their past year representing the School District of Indian River County as the Teacher and Employee of the Year. The night wrapped up with announcing our top 10 finalists and the moment everyone was waiting for, naming our 2018 Employee of the Year, Jillian Brothers from Fellsmere Elementary School, and our 2019 Teacher of the Year, Tess Borengasser from Glendale Elementary School. Congratulations to all of our teachers and employees of the year, and all of the dedicated teachers and employees in our district.
One of the things that we've done differently with these board meetings over the last year or so is we've tried to bring what the students are doing in the classroom to the board meetings. So we're in for a very special treat right now. Just on that video, you saw Encore, a group of talented performers from Sebastian River High School. And so we're going to bring them in here, and they're going to perform for you. Mrs. McMillan, any more introduction?
Sure, of course. Well, come on in. So these students have been working very, very hard because they were out at the gala last night until about 8:30, and they're back here again with us tonight. They are a very, very talented group of students and very dedicated to what they do. Tonight, under the direction of Mr. Larry Stanley, they will be performing a crazy little thing called Love and Sing, Sing, Sing. You guys are in for a treat, so enjoy.
Handle it.
Great job. Okay, so next we have our Casual for a Cause check presentation. For those of you who are not familiar with Casual for a Cause, once a month the district selects an organization that we allow our students, teachers, and staffs and other employees to donate money towards so that they could dress casually for a day. So in the month of December, the organization that we selected was the Salvation Army, and today we have Elaine McNeil, who is the volunteer coordinator for the Salvation Army, here so that we could present that check to her.
We would just like to say thank you to the Indian River County School District for allowing us to be part of their resources to help further the programs that we have here in our county, giving hope to those when they are at their lowest and feel that there isn't any. So we'd just like to say thank you and God bless you.
So just in case anybody was wondering, the check that we are going to give, district-wide, we raised $3,800 that we're going to be giving. For our next presentation, I'd like to ask Mr. Wes Bradshaw from the Florida School Board Attorneys Association to come up. He has a very special award to present to one of our own. Mr. Bradshaw and your entire crew can come on up if you'd like.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the board and superintendent for allowing us to make this presentation here. It seems like it's a very busy night for y'all, and thank you for adding us to your agenda. My name is Wes Bradshaw. I'm the school board attorney for Citrus County, and tonight with me is Mindy McNichols from Miami-Dade, Barbara Sadaka from St. Lucie, Jonathan Ferguson from St. Lucie, and Dan Harrell from St. Lucie County. They're all school board attorneys. I'm sorry, and Barbara didn't come over here, and Barbara from Broward County. And we're here tonight to present to your school board attorney, Ms. Suzanne DiAgresta, the 2017 C. Graham Carruthers Award of Excellence. And for our organization, the Florida School Board Attorneys Association, this is like the highest award that we give to one of our members. Each year we give the award to a school board attorney who has demonstrated excellence in the profession. And I would like to read to you the criteria that we kind of judge this by. And it kind of tells the story of how this came about. The C. Graham Carruthers Award of Excellence is awarded annually by the Florida School Board Attorneys Association to honor a Florida school board attorney who has demonstrated excellence in the profession as exemplified by C. Graham Carruthers, Esquire. Mr. Carruthers served as a school board attorney for Leon County, and he was the editor for the Florida School Board Attorneys Association journal for 35 years, back in the days before computers. He would read every slip opinion in every case, write a summary on it, and then send it out to all the board attorneys to try to, so we could stay up on the legal aspects as they were going along. He was one of the founding members of the Florida School Board Attorneys Association and was always ready to assist fellow school board attorneys facing challenges in the multifaceted practice of school law, which it is extremely multifaceted. That's probably an understatement. Mr. Graham always greeted your telephone call with, what can I do for you? He always had time to assist, and 99 times out of the 100, he had the answer off the top of his head, or he could tell you, where to go and look for it. He was the school board's lawyer's lawyer, and Suzanne embodies all of these qualities, and she is always thoughtful. She is always quick to help and answer difficult questions. I can't remember a time that I've ever tried to call her and she hasn't immediately returned my phone call and answered my questions, and I know she does that throughout this organization. She possesses an in-depth legal knowledge regarding education law. It's kind of scary to me because she's done it for just maybe 1 or 2 more years than I have, but she's an incredible resource. But the other thing she does, she couples all of that with common sense, which is sometimes what I think lacks in trying to formulate how to best direct a board in a school district. And these characteristics are what make her an excellent education law attorney and school board attorney, and that's why we want to give her this award tonight. So on behalf of the Florida School Board Attorneys Association, I'm proud to be here today, as is with my colleagues, to award our friend and colleague who we hold in very high esteem, the 2017 C. Graham Carruthers Award of Excellence, and present her with this plaque. And the plaque reads, "The Florida School Board Attorneys Association hereby awards the 2017 C. Graham Carruthers Award of Excellence to Suzanne DiAgresta, Esquire, in recognition of her contributions to the advancement of school law and legal professionalism." And professionalism is an important word because it is, I think that just describes how she is. She's just a consummate professional. So thank you, and I'd like to present this to her.
You gonna say any words?
Yes. A few remarks.
Thank you, Chairman Frost and board members and Dr. Rendell for taking time out of a very busy meeting
to allow this presentation to happen this evening. And I want to thank my colleagues for traveling to Indian River to do the presentation and their very kind words. This award means so much to me because I knew Graham, and he was always the first one to help if I had a question when I was a new lawyer. And he's a great role model, and I am so touched that anyone thinks I'm even slightly like Graham, because he was really wonderful, a wonderful individual to work with in school law. So I thank you very much. I cherish this. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. Yes.
Thank you so much for coming here. Absolutely.
I'd like to welcome to the podium Mary Therese Van Hollenbeck and Mr. Tuttle to tell you a little bit about the winner of the Tuttle Holiday Card Contest and what that is all about. It's very special to our district.
Good evening. I am the VSA Florida coordinator of activities that occur in our school district and our community. And to give you a little idea about what VSA Florida is, it is a member of the VSA Affiliate Network, which is a program of the John F. Kennedy Center for Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. And our affiliate is located at the College of Education at the University of South Florida. The mission of VSA Florida is to provide support and champion art education and cultural experiences for and by people with disabilities. The vision is to create a world in which the arts are universally accessible. So how do we do this? One of the ways we do is we promote the accomplishments of artists with disabilities in our school and community. And for 16 years, the gentleman here, Mr. Douglas Tuttle, has been helping us promote our students with disabilities, their art creations. How he does that is every year he has sponsored a holiday card contest, and the students from preschool and elementary school age are invited to submit artwork. And when they do, they are given a $10 gift certificate to the Vero Beach Book Center, which is wonderful because it promotes literacy, and we love the marriage of art and our academics. So, the winner of the contest receives a $100 cash check and also the $10 gift certificate. And we wanted to honor and recognize the young man, the second grader, Elijah Nasson, who is in Mr. Anthony Smith's class. Is Elijah here? Is Elijah here? Oh my goodness, he's here! He's here! He is a student at Sebastian Elementary School, and do you think he's happy? He has received his $100 check, and actually he will receive a framed picture of his work, but it wasn't ready today. But we wanted to acknowledge his work, and I want to shake his hand too.
Yep. I'm right there with you. Okay, on three, we're going to say Elijah. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Elijah!
Good evening, board members, Dr. Rendell, community, staff members. It's with great honor that I'm here to introduce Mike Kent, CEO United Way, who has worked collaboratively with us for several years now and is here to present a check. We don't have such a big check, but we have a check to Mr. Costa, principal of Pelican Island, for the Community Partnerships School project that we've been working on for the past 2.5 years. And he's here to say a couple of words on behalf. It's just an honor and a privilege to be able to work with so many community members on this project, and United Way is one of our greatest sponsors.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here tonight. I don't know how we can follow that last little bit. You know, I was thinking about jumping up and saying that's me when you introduced me. Cutting to what's really important about this particular presentation is this particular collaborative is very much a program that's a great example of how a community can come together with school districts. I mean, there's a great blend and mix of people who are at the table on this. Clearly, special thanks from our perspective to the school district and its representatives, starting with Dr. Rendell, Dr. Martinez, Alicia Reyes, Chris Kolstad, of course. But beyond the school district, TCCH, Indian River State College, Health Department, there are many other partners. You know who you are. Michael didn't, because they didn't list them all for me. I know many of them, but I don't want to leave anybody out. We thank you for being part of this project, being engaged and involved and at the table. It's clear that great programs can shape a community, and the Community Partnership School model is doing just that across the country. And United Way is very excited about the long-term success that this program can have at Pelican Island, and not just the elementary school, but the entire Sebastian community. So on behalf of United Way, we are privileged to be able to present, and I think the check was cut and presented. Obviously, he's not going to cash this, Chris, I'm sorry. But $20,000 to this collaborative endeavor. We're proud to be a part of it, and I thank you all for the work that you're doing.
Count your steps.
Of course, I'm not wearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes our presentations.
Thank you. And before we move on, I just wanted to say a special thank you to Mr. Stanley and the Encore Singers for jumping in last night and performing the national anthem without much scripting, and they did a fantastic job. And of course, they did a great job tonight. Okay, next item is citizen input. The only item for citizen input we have is a request before the item. So we move on to consent agenda. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Okay, Mrs. Simchek with a motion and Mr. Searcy with a second. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, sir.
Your second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. And now, for the main event, for what most of y'all are here for, action item A. We are onto the action agenda. And before we start this, I'd just like to read a list and recognize a few important dignitaries. And if I miss anyone, I'll have sort of a cleanup at the end. But I would like to recognize everyone for whom I have a list that we thought might attend tonight. When I say your name, please rise and be recognized. Elma Lee Loy, the Facility Naming Committee member. Is Elma Lee Loy here tonight? There she is. Thank you so much for joining us. Former School Board Chair Carol Johnson, also on the Facility Naming Committee. Thank you for coming, Chair Johnson. Freddie Wolfork, I know I saw him. There he is. Also on the Facility Naming Committee. Ruth Stambridge, also on the Facility Naming Committee. Gary Lindsay, former school board member. Thank you so much for joining us. Jean Waddell, former school board member. Dr. Doug King, former interim superintendent. So much. And we were hoping Dr. Ronald Hudson could make it.
Yes, Dr. A. Ronald Hudson.
A.
Yes,
Ronald
sir.
Hudson. There he is. Thank you so much. Concerned citizens of Gifford. And is Sandra Bowden, were you able to make it? No. I do see with the Sheriff's Department, Teddy Floyd. Recognize him. Pillar of the community. Are there any elected officials or? That's okay. Dr. Roger Deering, Superintendent. Thank you for joining us.
And Mr. Chair, one more. Another member of the naming committee is Mr. Tony Brown, President of the NAACP.
Of course. Tony, thank you for joining us for this august event. Okay, and with that, we are formally on action item A, approval to rename the Teacher Education Center, TEC, as the Joe N. Idolette Jr. Teacher Education Center. Dr. Rendell, you are recognized to present the
Thank you, Mr.
item.
Chair. We received a request to rename the Teacher Education Center to the Joe N. Idolette Jr. Teacher Education Center in honor of Mr. Idolette's contributions as the first African-American to serve on the Indian River County School Board and for his positive influence and equal quality education for all children in Indian River County. This includes his work in the community at Mount Zion AME Church, the Progressive Civic League of Gifford, Florida, the NAACP, and the Gifford Youth Achievement Center, among many other endeavors. Pursuant to School Board Policy 7250, commemoration of school facilities, all requirements in these policies were followed, including the majority vote of a facility naming committee, many of whom were just recognized. This action requires a supermajority vote by the board. I am recommending approval of the request. Very few times in our lives do we have the opportunity to honor someone for their incredible contribution to our community, and we have that opportunity tonight. This is something that we can do to kind of recognize the incredible contribution that an individual had that had wide-ranging influence and impact. And I think that we are very fortunate that Mr. Idlet is in the room for this occasion, and I fully recommend approval by the board.
And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Mrs. Justice with the motion and Mrs. Zork with the second. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, sir. I'm very proud to be a part of the board today, to be able to vote for this. I'm thrilled with the people on the Facility Naming Committee that have been such an important part of education here in Indian River County, and I look forward to a naming celebration in the future, hopefully. And thank you for your service, sir.
Your second, Mrs. Zork.
You know, I really appreciate the letter that we received from the concerned citizens of Gifford, because they really laid out the history of Mr. Idlet, and I appreciate that. And after reading this, there is no doubt in my mind that you are deserving of this honor.
Any further discussion?
I would just echo the sentiments of the board and say not only is it an honor to name this after you, but I know that you have raised up a fine family to be proud of. You've been a member of our community, and you have given the community so much. So I applaud all the work that you do and continue to do through you and your family.
Yes. And with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. It's on item F.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
4-1. We do have a supermajority. The motion carries. With that. Mr. Idlet, will you join us for a photo? I believe that's the case.
Absolutely, we can take a photo, and then there's a table of refreshments out in the lobby. If anybody wants to head out there after we take the photo, you can do that. And then we'll reconvene our business up here.
Very good. Dr. Rendell, I believe you have an announcement about some going-ons in the lobby, or?
Oh, he already did.
Yes, again, if anybody wants to go out and celebrate that motion, there is a reception area in the lobby going on right now.
You can if you like. We'll just have. we'll have
You'd
Miss-
like us to stay here, though?
I'd prefer that.
Sorry, yes.
Can we take a break?
Someone bring
now?
me a cookie.
Go out to the party.
Hey, Sean,
Yeah.
for those that are standing, you might want to redirect them to some seats.
Sure. Folks, we do have some seats up front now that were reserved if you'd like, if you find yourself standing.
I lost my
And
pen.
ushers, no, just kidding. We do have some seats here. though.
These two weren't bashful.
Like to have a seat. Great. Give it another 30 seconds or so. Okay, next we are on action item B, public hearing for the adoption of new revised and repealed district school board policies. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On December 12th, 2017, the board set a public hearing date to adopt new revised and repealed district school board policies. That date is today. The purpose of the revisions, new policies, and repealed policies is to comply with changes in state and federal legislative action, as well as current practice. The policy change process was followed in accordance with Florida statute under Florida Administrative Procedures Act, Chapter 120 rulemaking, and School Board Bylaw 0131. The proposed policies have been provided. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Rendell. This item deals with the adoption of new revised and repealed district school board policies. Dr. Rendell, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
Yes, it was.
We now recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. Dr. Rendell, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
Mr. Chair, we did not receive any written responses.
Okay, the public is invited to address the issue at this time. If anyone would like to speak to the policy changes, you may approach the podium. Not all at once? Okay. Okay, seeing no one approaching the podium. Again, is there any individual representing an organization or his own personal or public interest who wishes to speak? The chair concludes that the announced public hearing on the adoption of new revised and repealed district school board policies has been conducted pursuant to the notice, and that ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to all. The board meeting is reconvened at this time, 6:49. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Searcy moves, and Mrs. Justice with a second. Would you like to speak to your motion, Mr. Searcy? Your second, Mrs. Justice.
No, sir.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously, Ms. Espen. Anyone like to dissent? No. Great. Okay, C. Moving on to item C, approval of utility easement deed 2017 EG 215 to the city of Vero Beach for Beachland Elementary School. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, action items C and D are very similar. They are both requests to provide easement to the city of Vero Beach for two renovation projects that we recently finished. In action item C, we are seeking approval for a utility easement deed located on the Beachland Elementary School property to be granted to the city of Vero Beach. This easement is a non-exclusive easement in perpetuity for utility purposes, including without limitations the right of ingress, egress, and passage by the grantor, which is us, and its employees, agents, customers, and invitees over, across, and through the easement, and right to install improvements for the property, but not trees with the easement. We recommend approval.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Mrs. Justice moves approval, and Mrs. Zork seconds. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, sir.
Your second. Any further discussion? Mr. Searcy, you are recognized.
Yes. My question is, will the facilities that the city will be using, is that overhead or underground? Or I'm assuming they're going to run some lines or something underground, or is it overhead or underground?
More than likely, it would be underground. We're talking about the sidewalk areas around Beachland. This is the common property. Mr. Teske?
Yes, that's correct, sir. We're talking water mains and valves. They are above ground for access, but they were in place during the construction, so they're fenced in, accessible alongside the sidewalk. Yes.
Further discussion, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item D, approval of utility easement deed 2017 EG 0217 to the City of Vero Beach for the Vero Beach High School Citrus Bowl. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item D, we're seeking approval for a utility easement deed located on the Vero Beach High School Citrus Bowl property to be granted to the City of Vero Beach. This deed grants a non-exclusive easement in perpetuity for utility purposes, including without limitations the right of ingress, egress, passage by grantor and its employees, agents, customers, and invitees over, across, and through the easement, and right to instill improvements for the property, but not trees within the easement. Again, we recommend approval.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Mrs. Justice with a motion, Mrs. Zork with a second. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, sir.
Your second. Further discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item E, approval of 2017-2018 Title IV Part A Student Support and Academic Enrichment SSAE Grant. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All those acronyms basically mean that we've applied for and received a federal grant in order to improve instruction. All of the monies from this federal grant we are directing towards biology instruction at the high school level. The plan was attached, provided to the board, so we're seeking approval of the plan for these grant monies. Total for the grant is $113,094.51.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Mrs. Justice. Mrs. Zork, would you like to speak to your motion, Mrs. Justice?
I think it's wonderful that we've received the grant and that we continue to make sure that the students that are studying biology at the high school have all of the instruments that they need to have successful studies. So I don't know if Dr. Rendell's going to have anyone speak to some of the different improvements that are going to be made to the program, but when I had discussions with curriculum, it was exciting.
Thank you. Mrs. Zork, your second.
No, I was just wondering, it looks like Karen Mallets is the contact person. Is she the one that actually applied for the grant?
Yes, ma'am. Karen Mallets is our Director of Federal Programs, and she applied for the grant.
Okay. I just want to say thank you for her for having the foresight to be able to go out and find this, because I know grant applications are very tedious, and to be awarded this, I just think this is wonderful, and I just wanted to thank her. Is she?
She's here. I saw her something.
Is she here?
Thought I did. Okay, she was supposed to be here.
Well, anyways, thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Mr. Searcy, you're
Question.
recognized.
Since
For
this is
questions, there's a question.
since this is a federal grant, are our hands tied in any way with how we use the money? Are they going to dictate?
There are certain restrictions on how we can spend the money, but in the plan for the administration of the grant, we meet all those criteria. So the things we want to do, we'll be able to do.
And we've got it budgeted to
Yes,
spend
sir.
all the money. Good.
Yes. And to Mrs. Justice's point, we will make a presentation on what we are hoping to see different with the biology results, probably at a workshop. This isn't really the best format for that.
Further questions or discussion? Well, I'll tell you, this former high school science teacher, while I had zero to do with the decision to use these funds this way, I am super excited to see this. So I tell you, there are a lot of teachers out there that are really going to do great things with this, and I'm excited to support this motion. And with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item F, Dr. Rendell will, as I recall, we introduced the item and then we recognize the public to speak
Yes.
on it? Okay. Approval of Indian River Charter High School contract and renewal application and program review. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indian River Charter High School's current charter contract with the school board expires on June 30th, 2018. As outlined in School Board Policy 9800, the district's Charter School Application Review Committee conducted a program review of Indian River Charter High School as required under Florida Statute 1002.33. After a review of the 21 indicators in the attached program review form, which the board members have, the committee recommended to the superintendent the approval of the charter school's renewal application. I am supporting that recommendation, and Mr. Green will have more to add, perhaps the public comment now.
Okay. And with public comment, Mr. Gene Waddell, you are recognized.
Thank you, sir. My name is Gene Waddell. I'm here as chairman, Indian River Charter High School Board. And I hope by me speaking before you speak that I'm not a little premature in saying thank you. And I hope you take the superintendent's recommendation and approve our continuation. It's really been a labor of love, and I'm sorry Dr. Deering left because I wanted to give him credit. Frankly, had it not been for Dr. Deering, there would be no charter schools in Indian River County. And with our first graduating class of 6, and now a school of around 700, we feel that we have truly met what started out to be an experiment. And 20 years later, I think our staff, which a lot of them are here, it kind of speaks for itself that we love what we're doing. We're glad that we're able to do it, and we look forward to your allowing us to continue to do that. Back probably 15 years ago, those of you that were here, there was a movement to try to build a third high school. And at that time, it took maybe 100 acres of land and about $90 million to build a campus. And to Dr. Deering's credit, we convinced him that if he would take the cap off of our enrollment and allow us to grow, that we could probably absorb most of the growth in the secondary school and avoid building that third high school. That has proven to be true, and I also credit us with maybe saving Indian River County $90 million. So from that standpoint, we appreciate the scrutiny that your staff put us through. We enjoy that kind of thing. We're not afraid of that kind of thing. And we're always proud when we come out on the other end and can toot our horn and say we passed and good things. So without any further, I want to say thank you. We've enjoyed it. Suzanne, we're here in peace. We look forward to another 15 years of Indian River Charter High School. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your comments. And with that, the chair will entertain.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Mrs. Simchek with the motion, and I heard Mrs. Justice first with the second. Mrs. Simchek, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would. I want to thank you, and thank you all for coming, and thank you for your school. It is a high-performing school, and you have produced some good citizens of our community, and I thank you for that. Of course, I would approve the application. I looked through, and I know that our staff worked hard in, I know you mentioned the scrutiny and the grilling, but it has been 20 years, and I am more than proud to approve the application. And when we get to the contract, I'm sure you'll agree that charter contracts have changed over the years. So the new charter schools, some of the things that are in their contracts will certainly want to put in yours. And of course, I've already talked to Mr. Green and our attorney. The school board, the board previous to this, and this board is embarked in a wonderful journey of achieving unity status. And we are working very hard for the students of our county. And so, of course, in that contract, I would love to see all the issues, and I know they had mentioned it to you, of learning achievement gaps and how the charter school will certainly address that. And that'll help all of our students in the county, as I said, to go to this goal of showing unity and creating a learning environment that's equal to all students. So I look forward to that collaboration towards that contract, and I'm very excited about the contract, and I wish you luck.
Thank you. Mrs. Justice, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, sir. I am proud to be part of a board that has worked very hard to create a positive and a really good working environment between all of our high schools together. And I think we've made some decisions this year to ensure that going forward. Just to echo Ms. Simchek's comments about reaching unitary status. I think, when we talk about the scrutiny that the charter school went through as far as this process is concerned, achieving a racial, ethnic balance is, I think, what's best for all students in our county at all of our schools. And schools should reflect the communities that they serve. So I'm hopeful that that continues to be something that we all strive for. I think Indian River Charter High serves all students with excellence, and I think it's a wonderful option for our students, and I am happy to be able to approve this tonight.
Mr. Searcy, you're recognized for comments or questions?
Just to remind Mr. Waddell that I'm not sure the year that it was approved, but I remember the grilling that you got, because I was on the board at the time, and you just think that what Bruce and his committee's doing to you now is tough. What we did back in '96 or '7 or '8, that was almost unmerciful. So you guys have done a good job, and I appreciate what you're doing out there, and hopefully the vote will go right for you tonight.
Mrs. Ork, would you like to make any comments or questions?
I definitely think that the charter high school that we have here, I'm so proud of what you guys are doing over there. I know I'm not personally involved in what's happening, but you definitely are a school of excellence. I hear nothing but wonderful things about your students, and I appreciate all of you being here tonight. It means a lot. But you guys are doing a great job. We're proud of you, and I would love to see more schools like your charter school throughout the county. So thank you.
All right, well, I will take just a minute. You may recognize, don't worry, I won't dance. There'll be no dance, I promise. It is National School Choice Week, and Indian River County does really have some fantastic choice programs, whether they're the Indian River Charter High School, our magnet schools, Liberty, Rosewood, and Osceola, our virtual FLVS school that the district runs, as well as everything, to where parents can really choose the learning environment that works best for their students. We are also recognized as being the district to most faithfully implement the universal public choice, in that, if there's a seat in a regular neighborhood public school, then that is made open. And so there are a number of fantastic things. I do appreciate all the students coming out here tonight. We love seeing you at our meetings just in general, but wow, this is overload. And with that, go Wolves. And we will, do you have a question, Mr. Searcy?
One more question.
Okay.
Yeah, who will, I noticed in there are a number of comments, I think they're directed towards improvement of the school out there. Who will monitor that, and who will follow through on those comments and make sure that we get together on them?
Yeah, we can direct those comments to Mr. Green at this point.
Yes, thank you. As charter school liaison, that committee did make some comments on the program review, and we will be working alongside Ms. Diagressa and others as we negotiate the contract to put in some periodic progress monitoring on those specific areas to address those concerns that the application review committee had, and then we'll build that in for future progress monitoring.
Any other questions? All right, with that, we'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Go Wolves! All right, and with quiet feet, we're going to leave. Quiet feet. Very good.
Do they get to go have refreshments now?
If there are refreshments left, please help yourself. And anyone who brings Mr. Frost cookie, sign your form.
Thank you.
This is when we should build the music breaks in.
Yeah.
We tried that, and then people complained that nobody got to see it. So.
Yeah. Dance breaks. All right.
They want us to sign. Start.
Break, bathroom break.
No. Okay, moving on to item G. Approval of the guaranteed maximum price for the Technical Education Center project. Summit Construction of Vero Beach LLC, contract SDIRC 01-0-218JC. Dr. Rendell, will you explain the item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item G, we are seeking approval for the guaranteed maximum price for the Technical Education Center project in the amount of $1,600,100. This price includes all construction and management costs with Summit Construction of Vero Beach. This project will consist of the construction of a new 4,000-plus square foot single-story vocational classroom/lab building consisting of a welding lab, building construction lab, and common classroom area, as well as renovations to the existing classrooms for the conversion of the existing alternative school campus to a technical center for career and adult education. The GMP, or guaranteed maximum price, does not include architect, engineering, and testing fees at an estimated cost of $217,000. The total project cost is $1,817,100, but we're asking for approval of the GMP for $1,600,100 tonight.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Mrs. Justice with the motion and Mrs. Simchek with the second. Mrs. Justice, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, sir. I know that we have had discussions before about going through the CMAR process and having a guaranteed maximum price, working through the process in this way. What I'm excited about tonight is being able to support this because this means that we will be starting classes at the end of the summer. That's very exciting for students. We got to see a presentation at our workshop earlier this month where we learned a little bit more about the welding, the new facility that will house welding and will house the construction technology program. I think this is absolutely awesome for the students of Indian River County, and I just think it's great. So I am excited to move forward. I can't wait to see the new building and get kids on that campus and get them learning.
Thank you. Mrs. Simchek, would you like to speak to your second?
I would say the same thing. I just wanted to thank Dr. Rendell for his research into the project and actually bringing this forward. You know, the board is very excited about this. I know I'm excited about this. And I know it wouldn't have come to us unless you and your staff had put such hard work into that. So thank you, sir.
Appreciate that. I definitely want to give recognition to Christy Shields and Mike Arnett. Christy Shields has kind of been pushing for this for several years, and Mike Arnett saw how this could be a partnership with CTE and adult education. So those two really have been the driving force behind this.
Mr. Searcy, you're recognized for a question or a series of questions.
Thank you very much. I noticed in the contract documents there that a number of these items, site work, demolition of existing facilities, and renovations of existing classrooms, that's going to be on a separate bid. Do we know what the total cost of this project is going to be?
I will defer to Mr. Westberger, Director of Facilities, sir.
Those fees are all inclusive of this GMP. The demolition, the site work, the classroom renovations, and the new building are inclusive of this $1.6 million.
I guess maybe I don't understand. On page 9 of 15, it says over there in the quality comments, I guess, separate bid for all those items. What does that mean then?
Summit broke their GMP down into 3 different phases. They've got the new classroom building, which is the 400, so you're probably seeing something, I don't have it with me, so I can't speak per se, but I'm assuming that they've got site work included in the site work number, demolition included in the demolition number. Thank you.
Page 9.
Page 9 of 15.
9 of 15. Yeah, so that's building 4. So if you look at the top of page 8, that says building number 4. So all of that stuff associated with building 4, the site work was included in the site work bid, which was in page. Civil site work is page 15 of 15. So when you look at their GMP, they put it as a civil package, a Building 4 package, and a renovation package. All of those numbers total the 1.6.
Thank you. Thanks.
So this is the total cost.
Thank you.
So in this case, not
Yes,
to
sir.
exceed 1.8171 means not to exceed.
That's
Right.
exactly what it means.
Not, that's an estimate. Well, I was watching a meeting earlier today where the phrase not to exceed was used, and they said that was an estimate.
Yeah.
But that wasn't local.
That's not here.
That's not here. We're just making sure that here in Indian River County, we're doing things right, so.
Not to exceed means not to exceed.
Thank you, Mr. Westerberger.
All right.
Anything else, Mr. Searcy? Do you have anything, Mrs. Orr?
No, I personally want to thank the taxpayers of Indian River County for allowing us to do this expansion, and I just want to say thank you to them for voting on this.
Great. And the discretionary .5 mils.
Exactly.
Very good.
That was an excellent point. Thank you.
And we're going to come back to another source of this a little later in my
Correct.
discussion. Mrs. Simchek, did you have?
Well, yes, and
anything?
also it's for the funding, and I wanted to actually, just for the sake of the public, to know that this is technical school and adult education, and those funds have been gathering, and we've been trying to direct reinvestment into the education process. So I just wanted to assure the taxpayer, Mr. Frost, as you mentioned, and the public and the future students of this technical school, that it's going to be self-funding at some point, I believe, and with such an opportunity for our community that I am so proud and excited to be a part of the decision-making. So I am excited about this.
I would just like to clarify that it was Mrs. Zork who thanked the taxpayers, just for whatever it's worth. Mrs. Justice.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just wanted to let anyone know, it was January 9th at our workshop where we learned a little bit more about the programs that will be offered at this new facility. So if anyone would like to go back and look at that, they would be able to do so.
Anytime on YouTube, you can just go to our YouTube channel and look at that video. Scroll ahead, whatever. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Justice, for that reminder. And I will speak to it more in discussion, but these, and Mrs. Simchek somewhat hit on it, is we had $1.6 million the first time, I believe, and $1.7 million the second time that were discovered in an audit that it was determined we should have spent. So we found a way to spend them within the guidelines and to meet the dictate of the community that they wanted more technical. So this is really a great innovative project that Dr. Rendell and Dr. Arnett and Mrs. Shields have put together. So with that, I look forward to supporting this and seeing it open in August of 2018. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
Okay, great. With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Ms. Esplin. Okay. Action item H, approval of agreement form for construction contracted services with SiteSecure LLC, a Miller Electric company for Wabasso School Card Access System. Dr. Rendell. would
Thank you,
please
Mr.
say-
Chair. In action item H, we are seeking approval for an agreement with SiteSecure LLC, a Miller Electric company, to furnish and install a new open options card access system to secure 34 existing doors at the Wabasso School. The cost of construction of this project is not to exceed $170,546.67, which includes the proposed amount of $155,540.67 and an owner-added contingency in the amount of $15,000. The total project cost is $170,546.67. We are seeking your approval. Mr. Teske, anything to add?
We have Mrs. Pirandozzi here tonight. If there's any questions as far as the purpose and what the scope and sequence will look like. Mr. Westberger is also here to discuss installation and any contract questions you may have. But we fully support this. Ultimately, this revolves around student safety.
Okay, chair calls for motion.
Move approval.
Mrs. Justice moves approval. Second. Mrs. Zork with the second. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, sir. I think that it might be appropriate to understand that, to hear a little bit about why it was chosen to move in this direction. With the access cards, we educate some very special students at Wabasso School, and I'm sure there's some reasoning behind it, so perhaps we could share that, if the superintendent could share that tonight.
So we could either have Ms. Pierandozzi or Nick come up and talk a little bit about some of the different types of locks that are going to be in place. There are delayed egress and other measures that are put in place when you have a special needs population such as that. A lot of times we have students who elope, who run, that kind of thing, and so we have to take different security measures at those schools than what we do with our regular doors and locks and that kind of thing. So please expand on anything that I didn't cover.
You did very good. These are delayed egress locks, so it's a mag lock basically that allows they can push the door will not open for 15 seconds. An alarm sounds, and at 15 seconds, the door will unlatch because by fire code, we have to have egress. So this allows the staff time to hear the alarm, get over to the door, grab the child before they run out. So there's a delayed egress, a mag lock, and then there's also keypads on each side for the teachers to get into the room. So when that mag lock is engaged, the teacher can present their credential either inside or outside the classroom. The mag lock will drop and they can egress. Any more questions about the?
Mr. Searcy, you're
Will
recognized for a
the,
question or series of questions.
Staff be trained on the ins and outs of that new system?
Yes.
It seems like we've had some other situations where they might not have been trained as well as we probably should have.
There is staff training involved in.
Okay.
I will absolutely make sure that they're trained in that, however that comes through us, through the administration, sorry. Also, it's not just that elopement process, but we have no other security measure on our campus for a complete and total lockdown. So it is critical in that we can do so all at once in our facility. I have several buildings with students all over those buildings, and that they can access or exit front door back. So based on a lot of the fire and safety hazards that we must, or requirements that we must abide by, this also allows us to provide a safer environment for especially my high incident classrooms.
Mrs. Justice, you have a question? or
No,
series
not
of
a question,
questions
just a
or
statement. The
comments?
safety and security of our students is the highest priority to me. Nothing can happen if the students are not safe and secure. So I'm thankful that we take extra measures to make sure that some of our students with special needs that we are making sure that we give that attention and priority.
Mr. Frost, if I may just...
Mr. Teske, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Searcy, we installed 4 of these devices at Citrus Elementary in December. So just to reiterate your comment about training, I personally was there with Mr. Michaels, our district locksmith, the teachers, teacher assistants, and the administration where we were trained on the devices. We actually closed ourselves in the rooms and set the alarm off. We were trained for about an hour. We will probably do the same scenario at Wabasso when we are at that point.
That's critical. I mean, I support it
Yes, sir.
100%, but it's critical that the staff understand how those things work.
Yes,
So
sir.
they can get out or in, or whatever they need to do, so.
So we're going to have to trust Mr. Teske and our principal of the year to make sure this happens. And I have every faith and confidence that it will. And as everyone has said, safety and security is of the utmost importance, and I look forward to supporting this. Thank you so much. Any further questions for them? Great. All right, and with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, the motion carries unanimously. Action item I, approval of release of, or is it L? It's I. Very good. That's very good. Approval of release of final payment to Pinnacle Construction of the Treasure Coast LLC for the Gifford Middle PE Field Drainage Improvements and Repave Car Bus Loop Project SDIRC 11-0-217JC. Dr. Rendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, action item I, J, and K are all very similar. All 3 of those action items are requests to release final payment for different projects that have been going on and are now completed. With action item I, we're seeking approval for release of final payment in the amount of $38,976.31 to Pinnacle Construction for the Gifford Middle PE field improvements and car bus loop project. There's an unused portion of this contract in the amount of $38,969.90, and that will be returned to the capital fund. Seeking approval for the final payment.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Simchek with a motion and Mrs. Justice with the second. Mrs. Simchek, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, just I support all three of these items. I'm
wish we could do that.
constantly looking for improvements, and we have to carve out in meager funds how to make these improvements throughout the district, and I'm glad these came up in the hopper and getting done.
Mrs. Justice, your second.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Zerker, do you want a second? Okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item J, approval of release of final payment to Kearns Construction and Property Management Incorporated for the Osceola Magnet Single Point of Entry Project SDIRC 09-0217JC. Dr. Rendell, please describe the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item J, we're seeking approval for release of the final payment in the amount of $18,545 to Kearns Construction Incorporated for the Osceola Magnet Single Point of Entry Project. There is also an unused portion of $7,643.60 in this project, and I'll go back into the capital fund.
Fantastic. Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Mrs. Justice moves.
Second.
Mrs. Simchek with a second. Would you like to speak to your motion, Mrs. Justice?
Yes, sir. Again, safety and security of our students in the wake of some of the things that have happened recently in the news. I have had parents say to me before, wow, it's, your school is, you really have a lot of security around your school, a lot of fencing, and I'm totally in favor of it. So as we continue to move to single point entry for all of our schools, I will continue to support this measure to make sure that parents know that their students are safe when they are on our campus.
Mrs. Simchek, would you like to speak to your second? Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item K, approval of release of final payment to Paul Joaquin and Sons Incorporated for the Sebastian River High School band room renovations and exterior gate replacement project, SDIRC 12-0-217JC. Dr. Rendell, please describe the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item K, we're seeking approval for final release of final payment in the amount of $56,779.60 to Paul Jacken and Sons for the Sebastian River High School band renovation and exterior gate replacement project. There is also an unused portion of this contract, remaining amount of $5,669.24 that will go back into the capital fund. This project was something that is kind of long overdue. The band program at Sebastian River High School has grown or has outgrown its facility. The marching band program there has between 200 and 300 members. We didn't have a room big enough for them to practice in, and this room it gives them some more room, but it's still not big enough. I'm sure no matter how big we build it, Mr. Goldstein and his crew would fill it. But this is something that was long overdue. It's a great addition to that facility, and we're glad that it came in under budget, $5,600.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Mrs. Simchek.
Second.
Mrs. Zork with a second. Mrs. Simchek, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I saw these improvements last night, and I'm so excited because it was looking pretty bad. So as I said, I'm glad we could keep getting down the, anybody who owns a house, can you imagine owning several schools, being responsible for several schools, and just having to keep up with maintenance and things that run down? So as we attack these problems, improve, keep up with current codes, it's nice to get these projects done. As boring as they might sound to the public, they are well needed. So I am so glad that we are, conquering some of the things we have to get to. And I saw this last night, and as I said, it was fantastic.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Zork, would you like to speak to your second? I would like to say, anyone else? Okay. I know that this is something that we've had to move around in our capital improvement plan a couple times, so it's good that we were able to get it done and funded. And with that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item L, approval to pay invoices for EE&G and Mr. Restore for mold remediation work at Osceola Magnet. Dr. Rendell, you're recognized to describe the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board may recall that at the beginning of the year, we had an issue with air quality and mold growth at Osceola Magnet Elementary School. We have these two outstanding invoices, $59,455.43 for E&G and $93,696.71 to Mr. Restore. We had submitted these to reimbursement through insurance, and that claim was denied. So we now have to pay these outright. We did receive a reimbursement of $26,599.99 from Hartford Steam Boiler for the broken equipment part. You may recall that one of the culprits in this situation was some mechanical failure in the air conditioning system, and so that's why this wasn't covered under insurance. So we need to go ahead and pay these vendors for their services rendered. We do appreciate that Hartford Steam Boiler did award almost $27,000 for the part that broke. Mr. Morrison, anything to add?
As the narrative describes that we've had some delays with insurance, and that was also due to the fact that we had some back-to-back hurricane events. This afternoon, we were notified that we now have an endorsement on our policies. We're in a secondary loss adjuster has now been endorsed over to the policy. So in the future, if we have these types of catastrophic events happening, we will have the manpower there to make sure that we process the claim in a timely fashion, and hopefully we can get these invoices paid in a more timely way.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Mrs. Justice with the motion. Mrs. Zork with a second. Mrs. Justice, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, this is a crummy situation, and it's obviously not money that we want to spend in this way. I'm happy that we were able to make sure that classrooms were safe for students to get back to school. I will applaud again the way that the district handled this unfortunate situation. Mr. Teskey, Principal Simpson, parents, Dr. Rendell, I think we handled it as best as we could. And I think that I've spoken with Dr. Rendell to make sure that we have some different steps in place to ensure this doesn't happen again. You know, this is an approval that we need to pay it, but, you know, there's something, I'm sure that we could think of many other things to do with this money.
Mrs. Zork, would you like to speak to your second?
Well, I think, I really appreciate the fact that you did go after the insurance and then also went after the vendor of the part. So I think that was very wise in going after that, Mr. Morrison. So I appreciate that. And I know it is unfortunate we have to pay this, but I definitely would pay it again if it means cleaning our classrooms and making sure they're safe for our students. So,
Mr. Susi.
These invoices were from October and September, and from good business practices, wouldn't it be good for the district to go ahead and pay the bills and then get reimbursement from the insurance? I mean, I don't know how big Mr. Restore is, but $100,000 and $93,000 is a big deal, could be a big deal for them. And my question is, can we pay the bill and then get reimbursed from the insurance company?
Sure. At the time when these incidences occur, yes, it would have been actually better business practice at the time to may have gone ahead and paid it from our own funds to make sure that these companies were paid. They've been very professional. They've been very patient with us regarding this. We actually did try to mount a challenge on the insurance company's determination of this, but it just kind of dragged on. And we said, we need to get these people paid. So that is why it's before you tonight. Maybe 2020 hindsight, we could have probably went ahead and did that, but we were waiting on insurance, and we just experienced those delays because of the unprecedented nature of Hurricane Harvey, then Irma, and then the loss adjusters kind of got moved around. So this is what led to the situation.
We need to pay the bills, but again, I think that if you can, you can appeal to the insurance company to say, look, can we go ahead and pay it and then you reimburse us? But that's a terrific business practice, and I would suggest that we do that in the future. Thanks.
Mrs. Simchek?
Yeah, 'cause thank you for bringing that up. How does that affect, you know, our credit and our, you know, past due? We're past due, and how does that affect that?
Again, these companies have been very patient with us. They have been very professional about the payments that are due to them. So we have not incurred any interest or fees or anything like that for the delay in payment. We've been pushing over all this time to try to get the money from the insurance company, and to be honest with you, we were not happy with the termination at this late in the game. So we decided to just go ahead and get them paid and move it forward.
You know, and I would agree with Mr. Searcy that we should have some sort of board policy. I'm all for floating the check if you had maybe 60 days or 90 days, but once you get past that, I feel that's that's a bad reflection on us.
Yes.
And I don't like that. So moving forward, I would like to, just throw that out there, and I think, Dr. Rendell, you understand where we're at, and I think that would be a better practice for us in good faith. I don't know if it's a 60-day or 90-day. I'll leave that to your best judgment, but I wouldn't want to see go past 90. That's, yeah.
No, I think, Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Morrison would be able to provide you with records if we were asked to say that we actually pay our bills on time, more so than most other large organizations. I just think this was a situation where we were really pushing to try to get this covered by insurance. And, we finally said, you know what, we need to go ahead and pay, because we had to bring it to you for approval, and we said we need to go ahead and pay them. So this is not something we have as a normal habit or anything like that. We pay pretty quickly.
Any other questions? Well, you answered one of my questions, which is, are there any penalties for this late payment? And there aren't, other than loss of perhaps goodwill with a vendor or two here in this case. I would like to reiterate the comments of my colleagues that we need to be a good partner with the business folks, and almost to the point of the IRMA piece. I mean, we paid everyone for IRMA, and now we're still working on getting the payment for that. So I don't know if we need a change in board policy or something like that. Mrs. D'Agresta can speak to that, of whether there is a board policy in existence, or there needs to be one created that says we pay on time within the 90 days, and we're not leaving folks wondering if they're going to receive payment. And to echo Mrs. Justice's comments, this is one where you kind of clench your teeth and pay it. It's really, it's great that we're providing safe, but this is one of those unforeseen things that it would have been great that if insurance, this is exactly the type of thing for which people have insurance. And I understand your disappointment in that this isn't covered. At the same time, I want to make sure that we're paying our vendors. So whatever needs to happen between now and our next board meeting, if anything, Dr. Rendell, policy-wise, to see what procedures or policies we need to revisit to make sure that folks get paid on time. This is one of those where really nobody's winning. So that I will support it. Mrs. Justice.
No, I want to echo the comments. When we needed someone to come out quickly and do the job, they came out very quickly and they did the job. So I do think that's fair. I would think going forward, however, as far as board policy and payment in 90 days, and I'd like to ask Ms. D'Agresta, I don't know if we would want that in board policy, because if there was some dispute as to what the charges were, if there was something going on like that, that might be an issue. I think it's just good practice.
Well, let me correct that. We should be net 30. Are we net 30?
Yes, we are typically 30 days. Florida statutes give us 45 days from the time we receive the invoice, and under the Prompt Payment Act, 20 days for construction invoices. So we stick to that timeline, religiously. However, this situation was exacerbated by the fact that even the insurance company gave us a late determination on whether or not they were going to pay. So it's not the ideal situation. It is not a regular thing that we do. This is an isolated incident, I assure you.
Okay. So there already exists a statute.
And what I wanted to correct was it wasn't necessarily a policy I was looking to create. I was hoping that they would feel a consensus that even if a vendor was ever so friendly, publicly or privately to our comptroller, that, and I understand floating a check, that I would hope that even if they were the nicest, that we, on our end, stop it at around 90 and just pay it, even if we have a cooperative vendor, because, some people might feel they're jeopardizing future jobs as well, even though we're not supposed to.
Seriously,
Didn't the Florida statute just indicate we have to pay in 30 to 45 days?
The maximum is 45 days, but we pay in 30 days, sir. Typically, the line of credit that our vendors give us is 30 days. And as I mentioned, for construction, 20 days. And we stick to that timeline, as this situation, again, was a unique, isolated incident.
Any further discussion?
Just one question. In the audit committee today, I learned that we get a rebate of 1.6% if we use our credit card. Do any of these vendors accept credit card? Maybe that's the good news we could get.
I don't recall.
A rebate, at least?
I don't recall if they were P-card vendors. I'd have to check on that.
Okay.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item M, approval to accept internal accounts audit report for fiscal year that ended June 30, 2017. Dr. Rendell, will you explain the item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The annual internal accounts audit for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2017 has been completed by Berger, Toombs, Elam, Gaines, and Frank. Incorporated within the internal account audit report are the independent auditor's report on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters as completed. We are asking the board to accept the internal accounts audit final report.
Okay. We'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Mrs. Simchek moves to accept.
Second.
Mr. Searcy seconds. Any, would you like to speak to your motion? Would you like to speak to your second, Mr. Searcy?
I want to have a comment on it.
You're gonna have a comment?
Yeah, I do have a
Well, you can make it now.
I
Good
do.
time.
I just want to make sure that it
You
was
are
okay with you,
recognized.
Mr. Chairman. Okay,
You are
yeah.
recognized, sir.
I noticed, and
Comments,
this
questions?
really hurts me, on page 59 of 91, the item at Vero Beach High School where monies raised for athletics were transferred to the casual for a cause account. That's wrong. That is wrong. Page 59 of 91.
Oh, in the agenda, okay.
And I just don't understand why we would do something like that. It just doesn't make sense. The Casual for a Cause, I love the program. It does a great job. The kids participate, the students do. But for us to take funds from the athletic, from the ticket sales, I guess, and give to the Casual for a Cause, it doesn't make sense to me. And I disagree with that program. And I hope that we won't let that happen again.
Dr. Rendell?
Yes, sir. Once that was brought to our attention, that practice ceased. And so, you know, we responded to that finding and corrected that practice.
And I guess the other thing, in looking through all of this, I see the word again. Apparently, we continue to have the same issues year after year after year, and why don't we take a to-before to somebody and let them understand that you keep doing the same old things?
Dr. Rendell, would you like to comment on that?
I would have to look at specific examples of, you know,
If you look at this, you'll see, I mean, it just says over and over again. We noted this for the second time, we noted it again. I'm just throughout the entire report. It sounds like we continue to do stuff and we just keep doing it, same old stuff, and it's wrong. I mean, apparently they pointed out to us that we shouldn't be doing it. It's not a good reflection on us.
Mr. Morrison, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Part of the issue that we're dealing with is the timing of when the audit report and the subsequent training is conducted. So, for example, the audit was of the ending June 30, 2017. Here we are in January of 2018, and you're just getting the report, because it takes time to meet with the school, to discuss the issues, to get all the responses together, and then the report comes before the board. Once the report is issued, we actually schedule the training. So this year, what you're seeing in the audit report is a reflection of literally only 6 months of time that we had to make those corrections for last year's audit findings. Similar to this year, We only have until June of this year to make those corrections. So some of the items that you saw last year have been repeated because those would have been picked up in the first half of the year's audit that we did not get a chance to go ahead and do the training because of the timing of the audit and when the report comes to the board. So what we did in this instance here, for example, we already scheduled this year's training for next Friday, February the 2nd with our bookkeepers. However, when the auditors go in, they're going to audit from July 1 of 2017 to this, for this whole fiscal year, but we would not have had a chance to correct it with the bookkeepers until February of this year. So we've been talking with the auditors about how to accelerate, if you will, some of the findings that we have to make sure that we can timely address them so they're not picked up again as you cycle back through the audit. That's not an excuse, it's just that's the observation. So we're trying to address it in terms of the cycle of the audit and when the findings are published so that we can correct them. You may notice in the general comments section that there have been some updates to policies that we have made that helped out in the correction of some of the prior year findings. So those things were corrected. However, there were things that were picked up in the part of the audit that was not covered by the training.
Mr. Searcy, did you have a follow-up?
So I guess the follow-up on that would be that if I go back and look at last year's audit and the year before that, I would not see the same issues on last year's audit that were on the year before. They would have all been cleaned up, and the ones that, the recommendations that we had on last year's audit would not appear, and it would be a different bunch of folks that were not handling the money right. Let's just.
So the audit, we can do the training, and which we have. However, things may slip through at the school level, but we do our best to make sure that we provide the guidance and the training that the school needs with respect to what the auditors are recommending. So I can't give you 100% assurance that you won't find something that's repeated because it is a very active internal accounts fund. So I would not want to give you that assurance that there's something that happened last year that probably didn't happen again this year. But we try our best to make sure that that doesn't happen when we conduct the training.
Okay.
Follow-up, Mr. Searcy?
No.
Mrs. Justice, did you
Yes,
have a
sir.
question?
Yes, sir. We have an audit committee, and just to be clear, we obviously go through some extensive auditing by the state. The 2x4 comment, while it may be a colloquialism or of some sort, is not something necessarily that I'm comfortable with as I look through this, because a lot of these are teacher error, or perhaps a teacher collected money over a period of days and is submitted at the end of the week rather than submitting overnight, or a teacher collected funds on a Saturday over the weekend and then didn't submit until Monday rather than Sunday. As we have different staff changes and leadership changes at schools, I think it's important that we make sure that the training's going on for those leadership teams and the teachers so that they understand how the funds need to be handled at their schools. But again, I think to say that there's been some gross misconduct in general overall at our schools or by our teachers or by our leadership would be a misstatement. So I just want to make that clear.
Mr. Searcy?
I would take exception to the comments that the young lady just made. Nobody has indicated gross negligence or anything like that. The comments in this report that we're looking at continue to say we continue to make mistakes, and it continues to violate the Chapter 8 of the Financial Program Cost Accounting Report. I mean, that's why we have audits. So, you can do what you want to do and say what you want to say. That doesn't bother me at all. But this is a critical issue that this school district needs to make sure that we're handling funds properly. And I mean, you're reading the same report I am. So that's all I've got.
I'd like to provide a little perspective, and then if Mrs. Justice would like to chime in. I actually agree with both of you. And that is because as someone who has really been digging into financials around the state and internal audits and external audits, I'm going to tell you that this is extremely important and valuable work, which Mr. Searcy, it seems like you both agree. And, I have highlighted here, again, recommended that bookkeepers be removed as check signers for the internal accounts banks. I will also say this, as someone, I know Mr. Searcy, you were in the military and you may have endured an inspection or two in your time.
Yes, sir.
And one thing that I recall is that inspectors look for certain things and they gig people on those things. And those are often common things, whether it's shoes not shine, brass dirty, whatever it is. The same thing happens when we do these types of things. So you're going to see that, and I think that it's great that we have these and we continue to look at them. And it is discouraging when you see the same things, but that also should be tempered for those are the things that really matter. And some districts are getting away from cash because you go through this and it's all cash problems. So they're going to all debit, or there's these classroom accounts or things that are totally cashless. So one district just bought an armored truck, I think, to move their cash around. I'm not proposing that. I think, anyway, so to the points both of you are making are valid, and that it is somewhat disconcerting that we're seeing this, but I'm super glad that we're going through this process and we are seeing these things, and we do need to hold folks accountable and educate them at the same time. So it's great that we are looking at these best practices and bringing them around, and every audit has discrepancies. That's the purpose of an audit. So it's good that we're moving that direction. Mrs. Simchek, would you like to?
Thank you. Yeah, question. How much did we pay for this audit?
I believe it's $12,000, if I recall correctly.
Oh, I'm just saying, they had to fill the pages.
They do. That's their job.
I'd just like to say, I apologize if Mr. Searcy felt that I somehow didn't feel that this report was valid or important. That was not my point, sir. My question would be that, the onus is on us to train our staff and leadership teams, and I would just, I guess, ask Dr. Rendell, are there some plans in the future to address some of these different issues in future trainings and with your leadership teams at your schools and staff?
Right, so the internal accounts audit is basically people handling money, usually at the school level or the department level. And we have training for those staff, I think, twice a year. And basically what we do is we respond to the findings in the audit. If we need to change practices, like Mr. Morrison said, we've received this audit. We have training scheduled for this week or next week?
Next Friday, February the 2nd.
So we've already incorporated the recommendations from the audit into what we want to train our staff on. So again, to Mr. Frost's point, we have one set of auditors 1 year, and they'll focus on certain things. And we correct those, and then we get another set of auditors the next year, and they might focus on different things. I agree with Mr. Searcy. If there are things that we are repeatedly doing over and over again that are not best practices or they're violations, we have to correct that, and we do.
That's all we can ask.
Sir.
That's all we can ask.
Mrs. Ork.
I would just ask that, because this is important, because even though these are the school internal accounts, we're looking at these principal discretionary accounts, and some of those, like at the high school, can be, up to $2 million. These, Mr. Morrison, how much are some of the discretionary accounts over there?
Not the discretionary you may be thinking of are district accounts. These are internal accounts, and there is a principal's discretionary account in the internal accounts, which actually is addressed in the general comment section of the audit report, because we did make some corrections on that issue last year.
Okay, so that's what I'm reading here. But my point is we have a lot of money coming into these accounts, so times that times, what, 24? I mean, it really does add up. When I look at being a Ways and Means on the PTA, and we're scrambling to collect box tops to raise $2,000, I look at how hard these parents work across our county to raise various funds, and I want to know exactly where that money is going. So I really would like to see the cash portion of this tighten up, because I'm not really comfortable with how a lot of this, are missing receipts and the cash, the questions of the cash. So what I would like to see is, I know that you said that you're going to talk to them, but I would really like you to tell us, or tell me as a board member, what exactly are you you asking them to do to make these changes, to make sure that it doesn't happen again? I know that you're saying you're having a meeting with them, but like Mr. Searcy said, we're kind of seeing the same things year after year, some of the same comments. So I am having a problem with this.
So what we do, and I can speak to last year, is that we take literally take the audit report and we pull out all the comments and we divide them up into various sections. So for example, accounts and transfers, cash management and general controls, check receive date, that was an issue, principal's discretionary, et cetera. We pull all those out and we address those items specifically when we meet with the bookkeepers, and we make sure that they understand, here's the audit finding, this is what we're seeing, and we make sure that we provide that the appropriate training and guidance for them to ensure that, you know, they at least have the information not to repeat that finding. So that's, we literally take the audit report apart and conduct our training in that manner. That's what we do.
Well, I can also point to one specific example that just kind of popped out at me. Tonight during consent G, we approved to accept for Christmas funds for Fellsmere Elementary. And one of the mechanisms that through this audit process, management, which is the district and the auditor, I guess, in concert with the auditor, asked questions of the school, and on page 66, in Fellsmere Elementary School's response, so it's actually, that's a learning process. Management says, what are you doing? And the school says, here, the donor gave a check to the school to purchase Christmas gifts for the students, which was actually the same thing we approved tonight. They did not provide a donation letter with a check. In the future, we will request this information in writing from the donor. So that is exactly the sort of learning process and the back and forth. And again, human beings are imperfect. They're Sigma 1 at best, Sigma 2, maybe Sigma 6. Anyway, that's why we have these audits. So I'm certainly not letting anyone off the hook, but there is, this is just one thing that just sort of popped into my head and recognized that sort of the part of the process where district staff asks the schools to say what they're going to do, and then they do it. So that's just one example. Any other, Mr. Searcy?
I have one more comment on Vero Beach High School, and I'm not picking on them, by the way, but
Seems like you are.
One of the items in there indicates on page 87 and 91, supplements paid to coaches. Don't we approve paying from the district the supplements to all of the coaches in all the different areas?
Yes, but the schools have the flexibility to fund some supplements through their internal accounts. They have that flexibility.
Well, I guess one of the exceptions was they thought, whoever this auditor was, thought that was not a good practice. But we have in our school board rules, we give the schools the ability to do that.
I'm not sure in the school board policy, but it's a flexibility that was given to the schools. In the recession, when the supplement budget was reduced, they said we would like to fund some of those coaching supplements from their internal accounts.
I just thought that every year we approve this big list of supplements, and I didn't know what might have been missing in that, but apparently somebody thought it was an exception, and anyway, that's
Can I have an example of that? Would that be an assistant, perhaps a supplement for an assistant coach that the school felt was necessary for a team that the district wasn't supplying a supplement for?
It could be. It could also be for a non-athletic coach. It could be maybe for a math team coach or some other supplement.
Academic
When we
games
see
or-
coach, we always think it's sports, and it could be some other competition or club that we don't have listed in the supplement manual or something like that.
That's all I got.
Anything else? Any further discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to,
Mrs.
because I put under discussion pay to play, but that in sense, there was, I know an instance in the baseball team in Sebastian where there was only ace and assistant coach, or they had 2 assistant coach supplements, but there's a JV and a varsity, and as we'll sooner get to later, the pay to play money all goes to transportation, so there's nothing for the funds. So the booster club paid the supplement for assistant coaches so they could have additional help on the field. So I know it's not steady across the board, and a lot of times it depends if you have an active booster club, or as Dr. Rendell said, thing, but that is an example I wanted to share with you.
Thank you.
And that'll help when we get to my subject on discussion.
Just one more
Mrs.
question. It's so easy anymore with the way technology is. How come we're not trying to get away from cash and trying to use it where because most parents don't even carry cash that often anyways. How come we're not trying to get away from cash and using our electronics for that?
So as stated today in the audit committee, we are moving towards cashless schools. We are looking to eliminate, using cash. Obviously, that provide some more controls and risk and fraud, risk of fraud and exposure. So we are moving in that direction. However, again, what you have before you is based on what happened last year, and we're replanning and we'll be conducting the training as necessary.
I'd like to ask one more question.
Mr.
Of the
Searcy.
superintendent. You give these reports to us every year, and is it your intention for us to review them and ask questions?
Yes, it's provided to you for information, and we want
Kind
you
of
to
what I thought.
respond.
That's why these questions come up. So I want to make sure I was following the rules here. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you for your great questions, Mr. Susie.
Thank you.
Have you exhausted them?
I'm out.
Very good. Any further discussion?
Call for the question.
Call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item N, approval of the services agreement between the School Board of Indian River County and Explain My Benefits, also known as EMB, for the provision of an online employee benefits enrollment and administration system. Dr. Rendell, would you explain the item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In action item M, we're seeking approval for an agreement with Explain My Benefits for the provision of an online employee benefits enrollment and administration system. The estimated cost of the agreement is approximately $92,450 annually and will be paid from the commissions generated from the district's benefits products to Aon Hewitt. The effective date of the contract is March 2nd, 2018.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Mrs. Justice, thank you for your motion. Second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Dale. Yield to Dale.
Okay, Mrs. Simchek with a second. Mrs. Justice, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, sir.
No? Any further discussion? Mr. Searcy?
The question that I have, I guess, we can terminate this contract if we give 60 days written notice, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I believe that is true.
Well, over on page 8 of 9 in the contract, it indicates that if the end user, and I think that's us, if we cancel the contract, we owe the fee, $2.50 per employee, through the end of the enrollment year. Am I reading that right? So if we cancel this thing in January, we'd have to pay the entire year premium to the company, correct?
Yes, we actually tried to negotiate that item specifically. We felt that it should just go through the end of probably the next month or so. However, EMB actually pays for storage of that online information. Also, they felt that that was a hit to their capital investment, so we kind of yielded on that one in exchange for other concessions in the contract.
So what does that amount to a month?
It's $2.50 per employee per month. Roughly, we have about 2,100 employees or so, so, it adds up.
Mrs. Justice?
Yes, sir. This was an item that was discussed at our January 9th workshop as well with the board. And perhaps we could just kind of get an overview right now for anyone that might be curious about it and hasn't viewed the workshop.
Mr. Morrison, could you give us just a quick?
Sure. This is a successor agreement to the current contract that we have with a vendor. We have some performance issues with the current vendor that took place publicly last year. As a result of that, we started to look at other platforms. This platform will allow us to administer the benefits in terms of taking what's coming out of the payroll in terms of deductions and transmitting that to the various vendors that we have on the district's program, such as your Florida Blue, such as your Davis Vision, et cetera, our benefits programs. We also feel like this has a robust auditing feature to it, that we can run reports. It's much more robust, as I use that word. It also has a employee self-service portal, which will now move that from in-house trying to do paper-based enrollments, that kind of thing, to online enrollment, which creates a lot of efficiencies for our operations and for our employees. So this is why we're here today, because of the service issues that we've had with the vendor in the past. We are recommending this software platform. They also have an app that you can download on your phone. Pretty much everybody does their thing on their phone these days. So we feel that this is the best, in the best interest of the district to move forward with this platform.
Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item O, approval to correct the purchase order authority for SCERMP on the 2017-2018 approved recurring vendor list. Dr. Rundell, will you explain the item, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a little complicated, so I'm going to read the entire paragraph there. The school board, at its regularly scheduled business meeting on August 8, 2017, approved the superintendent's request for purchase order authority for various recurring vendors. Included in the approved list of vendors was approximately $2,401,100 for property, casual, and workers' compensation premium payments to the district's consortium, SCERMP. During the Budget Priorities and Recommendations Workshop on May 23, 2017, staff had reported an increase of $175,069 in the 2017-18 property casual premium, which was included and approved in the 2017-18 beginning budget on September 7, 2017. However, due to an oversight on the recurring vendor list that was approved by the school board on August 8, 2017, that did not include the increase, and this item is to correct the document to reflect the amount of $2,576,169 approved in the budget. So we're trying to match up the budgeted amount with the amount listed on the approved list of recurring vendors.
Chair will entertain a motion.
So move.
Mr. Searcy with the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
Second.
Mrs. Justice with a second. Mr. Searcy, would you like to speak to your motion, sir?
Question that I would have would be the $175,000 increase. Do we know exactly what caused that?
That was this was market conditions in the property market this year. We actually did, as a consortium, utilize some of our fund balance to buy that premium down. However, based on the formula, the $175,000 is just property market conditions when we went to market.
And the follow-up question, or the second question on that is, I've been kind of crazy acting about this work comp deal. Have we made any progress at all in trying to address that and get our mod factor down and get the rate down? I think we were even talking sometime a while back about hiring a risk manager.
Yes, sir.
Did any of those things happen?
So tonight on your consent agenda, you did approve the superintendent's nomination for that individual. So the start date, I believe, is coming up on the 24th of February. So you did approve that tonight, so we'll be bringing that person on board, and I guarantee you that she'll be hit the ground running. We are very excited to have that individual on board. So it's in your consent agenda. So we are moving forward with that.
Okay, good. I missed that, and thank you.
Any further discussion? No? But, I'm actually going to be down on this. The phrase, however, due to an oversight, seems like we're rewarding bad behavior here. So for that reason, let's get it right the first time. Okay, any other comments, questions? Wonderful. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's do it again. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I just didn't have a chance to comment on your,
Oh.
you were such a rolling thunder, I didn't have a
Okay.
chance to ask you the question about, and I know it's your decision. You might want to finish the vote, I'm sorry.
Let's finish the vote. Okay. Any opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Nay, 2. Motion carries 3-2 with Chair Frost and Board Member Zork dissenting. Okay. Would you like to make a comment?
Well, yeah, I just, curious, because I feel that we're a work in progress, and sometimes I like to have an open ear to my peers, either to be swayed through dialogue and discussion, or to make a comment. As I know this is for, to cover the purchase order authority, I think that the funds are needed there. So, I mean, I know you had questioned, I just wanted, I would have, if I had a moment, said, you don't think we'll need to spend the money? I mean, I do think that the oversight is costly, not costly that it cost more, but costly to have these things come back, as far as it just looks bad. As you said, you don't like to reward good behavior, but I would have asked, do you think we're not going to spend the money?
Right. Well, we're sort of out of order here, but I'll bring it up in Members' Matters. There we go. I'll bring it back. Okay, the motion passed 3-2, and that's just fine. Okay, action item P, approval of superintendent's new evaluation template for 2018. Chairman Frost, do you explain the item? Okay, approval is requested for the proposed superintendent's evaluation template as discussed at the December 12, 2017 workshop. Be sure to look that up online. There's lots of great lively commentary there. And Dr. Rendell, do you recommend this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have to follow, it's the law. He has to recommend or not recommend. He does recommend, as you are aware. Chair will call for motion at this time.
Move approval.
Mrs. Justice moves approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Searcy with a second. Okay, Mrs. Justice, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, sir. I'm happy to see that this is on the board agenda for tonight. It's a better evaluation instrument, and I'm happy to be able to work with it. And the next two agenda items, I'll be happy to be able to work within this new design.
Thank you. Mr. Searcy, would you like to speak to your second? No. Any further discussion? I would like to say that this is a vast improvement. The board and the district and the superintendent in concert developed a strategic plan. This evaluation tool takes into consideration that plan and ties Dr. Rendell's evaluation to the strategic plan and its accomplishments, and for that reason, it appears on our agenda tonight. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item Q, approval of the superintendent's new evaluation timeline for 2018. Approval is requested for the superintendent's evaluation timeline, which was reviewed at the December 12, 2017 and January 9th, 2018 board workshops. And Dr. Rendell, do you recommend approval?
Yes, sir.
He does, outstanding. The chair will
Move for
entertain a
approval.
motion.
Second.
Mr. Searcy moves approval and Mrs. Justice with a second. Mr. Searcy, would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Mrs. Justice?
This new timeline allows us to take into account some of the data coming back from the state, some of the assessments, so that we can take those into account when we conduct the evaluation. So I'm happy to see that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, springboarding off Mrs. Justice's comments, we hold our teachers accountable for data. We should be holding our superintendent accountable for data as well. All right, and Mrs. Justice?
Yeah, I would just like to make one point and say that the data that comes back from the state assessment is one measurable outcome of student success and achievement in this district. So as I go forward in using the superintendent's new evaluation instrument and waiting for that data to come back, that is but one measurement of student success and achievement that I'll be taking into account.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Great. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Action item R, approval of the proposed second amendment to superintendent's employment agreement In furtherance of the school board's discussion at the January 9th, 2018 workshop, approval is requested for the Second Amendment to the Superintendent's Employment Agreement dated May 12, 2015, as amended by the First Amendment dated January 26, 2016. And Dr. Rendell, do you recommend approval?
I do, thank you.
Thank you. Chair will call for a motion.
Move approval.
Mrs. Justice moves approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Simchek with a second. Okay, would you like to speak to your motion, Mrs. Justice?
No, sir.
Mrs. Simchek, your second.
Nothing.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Rendell, you are recognized for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually want to thank the board members for their support of our teachers and employees over the last week or so. We've had some big events to celebrate the finalists and all of the Teachers of the Year and the Employees of the Year from all of the different schools, the dinner Saturday night and the big Night of the Stars celebration last night, and board members attended all of those events. And, you know, that's something that you gave of your time to show how important it is to recognize the work of all these individuals. And so I know that I enjoyed the celebrations and seeing the schools and the school spirit that was on display, especially last night at the Teacher of the Year and Employee of the Year celebration. And I want to thank you all for being a big part of that.
All right. Next is item 9, discussion. Mrs. Simchak, pay for play, or pay to play, sorry.
Pay to play. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, and I've also let Dr. Rendell know that I was bringing this up, and so that we can at least start to discuss this in public regarding the pay to play. A lot of people, maybe older people, you know, play to pay intramurals.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
Because today is my birthday, and I think you're older than that.
Is it really?
Yes, it is. And I couldn't think of a better place to be.
You're a liar, but all right.
Really?
But that being said, you know, when we were younger, we would, you know, you would stay after and you would play sports, and the school could do it all. They could fund the music and the arts and the sports, and that's a thing of the past, and we began pay to play. And the fee is $65, whether it's one sport or many sports. And just for the, and I could be wrong on this part, so I'm going to ask for some clarification. But sports, and I could be wrong on this, I don't know if you call it divisions, but I know that Sebastian is a 6A, I believe. And a 6A, usually you'll find your private schools being 1, 2, 3, 4, and they play and ones compete against 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. And it's based on their population of the school. So Sebastian is a 6, and Vero is an 8, I believe.
In
and
most sports.
That's why you see Vero on TV and you don't see Sebastian on TV. That's why you see 5,000 seats, and that's why I do thank you for bringing that up, that they're so flush in their funds that they can move it over to Casual for a Cause, which won't happen anymore. But people are paying, there's sponsors, maybe they have a more wealthy community with the beach side being able to attend their school and a lot more donations. That being said, the new Citrus Bowl, and then you have the Sebastian, where in 2004 during the hurricanes, the guest bleachers were damaged and they just carted the damage half away and never rebuilt. So my understanding, it was come to my attention, that the $65 pay to play in the Sebastian High School goes all to transportation for the intramurals. Nothing is regurgitated back into the sport, which is rough on a high school that is not reaching TV, not reaching the 5,000 stands, and not doing that. So, you know, I'm not sure how those funds are divided. I'm not sure, and I don't want to pit one school against another. I'm not sure if Vero is budgeting for transportation and Sebastian is not, and the principal chooses to put the pay to play. And again, I'm not picking on the principal either. But I thought that it would be clear to bring this up because my peers, and I have a kid in sports, if I have, you know, just some knowledge of it, I think it would be good to go over that process at this time because
And another thing, pay to play is $65, but the Sebastian River High School Band, they pay like $150 or $200, and they are able to extract that from parents, and your kid's not in band unless you pay this. And I can tell you the Creatively booster clubs in the past, if a family couldn't afford it, we've gone, you know, so-and-so made the team, but he can't, because you don't pay to play until you make the team. So some booster parents have stepped up, and I'm sure that happens within the sports. But I wanted to take this opportunity to actually flush this out so we can have a community discussion, only to better the ability for the student athletes to have the money that's supposed to be collected that truly would go back into baseballs, footballs, maybe raking gear, go there instead of to a bus. Right. And I know we have problems with budgeting, but I do want to, why are there inequities with, and again, I'm not in the band, but how is band allowed to extract that money in the sports? You know, I don't know if raising pay to play is the answer, but this is the opportunity where I wanted to bring it out and then look to our staff, and I gave Dr. Rendell a heads up so he can have him or his staff explain it to us so that I have a clear mind when I get the little comments as I walk about, as I know you guys walk about, so.
Dr. Rendell, would you like to, or have
Yes,
Dr.
thank you,
Peggy
Mr.
Jones?
Chair. So Mrs. Simchak did bring this to my attention a short time ago and let me know that she was going to be putting it on the agenda. And so I asked Dr. Peggy Jones, our Executive Director of Secondary Programs, to do a little checking into the situation. She oversees secondary curriculum, and athletics or clubs and band and music are kind of secondary curriculum.
And
so
sorry
she
for
did
that
some
work.
checking. She's found that we have the pay-to-play policy in place at both of the comprehensive high schools and at our 4 middle schools. But the use of that money varies. The fees and frequency that those fees are applied also varies. So she is sort of just getting into this work. And if you know Dr. Jones, you know that she's going to get into this work knee-deep, and she's going to make sure that if there are some changes that need to be made, that she comes forward with some recommendations and that kind of thing. So I asked her to share what she knows so far, and then we can have some discussion amongst the board members and that kind of thing. But I know that this is something that we're going to be looking into. We might make some changes, recommended changes for next year. Dr. Jones.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Simchek, for bringing this up and for discussion. And I know we can't get into a lot of detail, but maybe we could do a board workshop someday. And I asked Dr. Rendell when I first came, just coming back from the FHSAA as Associate Executive Director, if I could be a liaison with athletics. As a former principal of 2 middle schools and then, of course, Sebastian River High School for 11 years, I believe truly it's the best dropout prevention program we have for many of our students, not just athletics, but extracurricular in general. I called the middle school ADs and the high school ADs together when I first came here, and I've been in a couple follow-up meetings with them. Basically, now these are not all specific costs, but basically at the middle school, they charge per sport, anywhere from $65 to $85. In some schools, a little bit more for the club sports. So they charge for each sport. Both high schools charge a one-time fee of $65. Now, I know what you're saying about budget and discretionary and so forth, but again, I'm just getting into the budget process, and we have not really begun that yet this year, just starting to learn about it. But I do have specific detail from each of the ADs at the high schools and the middle schools about what they charge, why they charge it, and maybe what they could use some help with.
That's good. So then this is an early process then. So you're going to get back to us, I guess, because I guess I think what started this was, you know, the Sebastian High School. Their money goes to transportation. And again, I'm sure if there's something there, so will we get a report back then?
Yeah, so Dr. Jones kind of hinted at what we'd like to do is present this information in workshop format.
That's great.
She'll have a list of what's being spent at each school. So you might say the $65 fee that's collected at Vero Beach High School, $40 of that goes to transportation, $25 goes to uniforms. At Sebastian, they might break it down differently. It might all go to transport, you know. So she's going to get some information and put it in a presentation format, you know, to share with you. And then we can kind of look, you know, we'll be looking at what we really want to kind of recommend as best practice moving forward, but we'll share all that information with the board and get your feedback.
And I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for that. And I just want to also say that I do also know that there is differences in schools with booster clubs.
Yes.
You know, you may have that more participation maybe at Vero than you do have at Sebastian, where parents are handling and fundraising, and I assure you, I know. It's the same 5 parents too. But, you know, so I do understand those discrepancies between that type of mood or flavor, or, you know, there's a difference in, if you walk in a school in Fellsmere or Sebastian or Vero or even South County, there's a different, because we have different county areas, and they all absorb their community's feeling. But I just wanted to make sure if there's any way, in a budget-type manner, you know, we could see an equity and fairness. That's, like I said, there was a concern, and it's probably a meaty subject, so I appreciate that so much. And it's, again, it's for, I'm just looking out for the students, you know, and for you know, the athletes and the after-school and the programs, because I do feel those are saving children.
Absolutely.
From, you know, different paths that they may walk. So I appreciate your work.
bet.
Not to give you some, but I appreciate
No,
your work.
I enjoy this.
Mr. Searcy first, and then Mrs. Justice.
Question, Dr. Jones? Got it right tonight. Just for clarification, who makes the decision about how much money they're going to charge and who gets it?
You know, I'm assuming it's the principal and AD. When I left this county, I was very, very fortunate in 2008. That's when the budget was starting to get hit.
Okay.
I had a utopia. I'm just going to tell you right now, for band and athletics. It was a utopia. We had the money. And I fought very, very hard not to have pay to participate. But then a lot of things, you know, the budget really started going down. But I'm assuming it's a principal and AD. Now, I know the 2 ADs at the high schools got together, so it was similar, $65 across the board. I know that, but it's basically at the school side, if I'm correct, Dr. Rendell, I believe.
Right
so.
now, that decision has been made at the school site level. Again, that's something that, as Dr. Jones gets into this, and we might decide that, you know, that they don't have that flexibility, that we're going to be uniform all across all middle schools and uniform across the 2 comprehensive high schools and that kind of thing. You know, for example, the high schools are charging once. You can play 3 sports, but you only pay the fee once. The middle schools, they're paying per sport. And so, you know, we need to find out, is that really necessary? You know, do we need to change the practice at the high school? You know, so it's, you know, Mrs. Simchik kind of brought this to our attention, and we started digging into it, and we're seeing that there's plenty of layers to peel back. What we kind of want from the board is direction in this format to say, yes, we want a workshop on this, yes, we want more information on that, or no, we, you know, that kind of thing.
And I think the ADs would appreciate that if we could do that.
Mrs. Justice?
I personally think it's a great thing that you brought up today, and I would like to see a workshop on it personally in the future. We not only charge for athletics, but also for band or orchestra, for equipment rental, and one of the things that's really important to me is making sure that we have very robust programs in our middle schools, but I want to make sure that every student has access to those. So when you talk about booster clubs or different schools or PTAs that sometimes contribute money to make up for some areas where there might be shortfalls, I want to make sure, I'd like to see maybe if we are making sure that every student has equal access and opportunity to every experience in our schools. That's something that's really important to me.
I want to add something to that too, Ms. Justice. Not only did I get this from the athletic directors, but also band directors. And one thing I asked at the end was, what if a student doesn't have the money? Every one of them said they will work through it, and they have specific ways of doing that. And we can talk about that at the workshop, but that was a concern I had too. Not just, you know, athletics, but band, any extracurricular, because there will be charges.
And I just want to, and I would, again, that's why I brought it up, I would like to hear more. I think my concern was not to fault any principal, but if a principal of a school, I know that they have their own budgetary issues, but if they feel that play to pay, they don't have money in transportation and they put it to transportation, and whereas, like I said, a school like Vero could afford their transportation because of the intake, then Sebastian students are suffering because they're not getting athletic equipment. I'm not saying that that's exactly happening, I'm just saying, I'm using an example of equities. So I don't know how that, you know, if the school gets the budget and the principal sets it, I don't have that jurisdiction, that's his personnel. You see what I'm saying? But you will help in bringing the knowledge,
Absolutely, right.
and then we can help guide in what we'd like to see. And I think this is a great, obviously, it's going to turn into a project, and I'm so sorry again. But it's just because it came up in the community, and, you know, we have a thriving marching band in Sebastian, and then we have, you know, sports programs that could use some money, buildings that have to be redone. And so I'm sure that if it's on a high school level, it might be on a middle school level as well. So I don't know. I think, I'm glad that my board members are, I hope, are receiving this.
Well, and that's, I hear clear direction from the board and direct interest in this, and in having Dr. Rendell and I work together to put it on a future agenda for a workshop, and trust the very capable Dr. Peggy Jones.
I want to add one thing, Ms. Simchek, and I understand what you're saying about, you know, maybe one school has more than this, but at the state level, I saw that across the entire state. Sometimes programs that have a history will just continue to build and build and build. And again, a principal at Sebastian River High School for 11 years, I came there after 3 years. It takes some time to do that, and we work very, very hard to do that. But not just private schools, not just public schools, just depending on where you are in the state, you see some that have so much, and some that have so little. So, you know, I understand that, and I understand my main concern here as a former athletic director, principal, and at the state level is that I know what these programs do for kids, and I want to make sure that it's equitable as far as those students participating, and because I know this saves a lot of kids, a lot of kids.
And I appreciate that, and that's why I started to, in my limited way, explain the difference in the 6 versus 7 versus 8. They are in different competing categories.
I used to do those categories. I set those.
So,
At
but
the
to the,
state.
so,
Yeah.
so I'm only explaining why we never win dollars for scholars up there, because we're 2 levels below. No, I'm only kidding. But I'm just very excited about this, because I think the knowledge might help, and if there's anything we can do to help, because we do recognize, I know this board has been very, you know, as you could see from the musical performances and things,
wonderful.
very receptive to what's good for students, so thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Rendell, do you have the direction you need?
We do.
Outstanding. All right.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, one last comment.
I just want to make sure that it's real clear tonight. This board gets blamed for a lot of stuff, but we're not responsible for how each school handles their play-for-pay budgets, correct?
Not that I know of, sir, no.
Fine.
Definitely.
The buck stops here.
Yeah.
Yet. All right, that's, okay, and it sounds like we're going to have a great discussion on that. Thank you for bringing that forward, Board Member Simchek. From the chair, Simchek. Mrs. Justice, you would like to discuss cold weather protocol and board policy?
I would. On the first day back to school here in Indian River County after Christmas break, it was a very, very cold day. And I have 4 children who it was very difficult to get them out of the house, ready to go to school. It was cold out. And it was interesting to me because the way that different schools communicated the dress code was going to be, everybody kind of handled it differently. And I was kind of looking at, especially in this position, I had some parents calling me, well, what does the district say? What does the district say? And my experience as a parent was in elementary school, if it was below a certain temperature, the standard protocol was it was a relaxed dress code. You dressed for warmth and safety and not, you didn't have to worry about the dress code. No blankets allowed, though. I just like to say that. Nobody can wear a blanket, but other than that, it was pretty, people were pretty good about it. But as the kids get older, and especially now we have some middle schools that have uniforms that didn't have uniforms before, so jeans weren't allowed, and, with the traditional dress code. So there were a lot of questions. And one of the schools I kind of was asking, and they said, well, it's going to be warm in our classrooms. We're not going to have kids outside. And my question to Dr. Rendell was, what about the kids at the bus stops? Because they're out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I think it was like 33 degrees. And I know there are some kids that don't have long pants. Jeans might be their only pants that they have that are long pants. That's just the truth of the matter. So I reached out to Dr. Rendell and I said, is the district going to take a stance on this? Is there something that we can do? Is there something in board policy in our code of conduct that states something? And he suggested perhaps code of conduct would be an appropriate place to address this. And I wondered as a board if we might like to say, you know, that when it is cold, whatever temperature it's deemed or whatever that is, if the board would say that we would relax the dress code so there wouldn't be confusion for parents across the district.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Mrs. Zork?
Well, also being a parent of younger kids, this is something, the calls that we would get about the dress code. And I believe I spoke to you back in November or December. It was one cold day, and there was a call out that said that I believe the dress code, it just didn't make sense because it was going to be cold out that next day. And so we looked a lot into this, and I agree, it's going to have to be in the code of conduct, I think. I think one of the areas was that you couldn't wear jeans, you know, you had to wear your uniform pants, and then your winter coat, you could wear a winter coat of any color, I believe, if it was below 50 degrees. And my concern with that is, you know, we live in Florida, and if you're in a lower economical income area, you probably don't have a winter coat because you don't travel out of the state too often. So it didn't make sense that they said that if it's below 50 degrees, you can wear whatever coat you wanted to wear. But so my concern was, I believe that if it's cold out, your child needs to dress in whatever can keep them warm. At that point, I think Dr. Rendell started sending out some emails to the principals, asking them to have a little bit more looser type of policies on that. But I do think we need to look at that closer because every school does something a little different. When I look at the code of conduct, I believe it's 50 degrees. That is the magic number that you can wear anything that you want. When I'm outside and the wind's blowing, and I believe it was about 57 degrees, I was freezing. So I can't imagine, you know, I also would like to look at the temperature too. I'm not comfortable with that policy at 50 degrees, so I agree.
Would anybody else like to weigh in right now? Mr. Stussy?
I happen to like the fact that we've got a very capable superintendent, and he can make that call, and he's done it a couple times this year, and I think it's been very favorable. The folks got the word on it, and I don't know if we had any real cold kids or whatever, but I just think that we need to give him the discretion to handle that, and he did a good job of it this last time, a couple times. So we can't have a rule for everything. You know, we could try to control the temperature.
Well, can I say something?
Sure.
Okay.
Very nice.
You're always so funny, so I'm just going to laugh at that. But I understand we can't make a rule on everything, so I'm not less government, right? That's what we want. But there has to be some common sense too.
That's the key.
And
That's the whole key.
And if it's you know, it's drilled into the students, if you don't come to school in dress code, you're going to get a violation or a what's it called, demerit. And so, you know, we have to use some common sense here, and the time to do that is going to be whenever our code of conduct comes up. So that was actually the time that I was going to bring it up, but I think it's good to talk about it now, because every school is different. Every principal looks at this differently. And so I think we should just set, you know, some expectations of what we would expect.
Dr. Rendell, when are we going to address code? I know we're working on sort of an annual plan, if you will. Do you have a sense for when we're next going to address code of conduct, student code of conduct?
Dr. Torres Martinez could give us the timeline of when we expect to see the next version of the code of conduct to be brought before the board. One of the things, I appreciate the discussion, I appreciate the suggestions, I appreciate Mr. Searcy's vote of confidence, but I also think that it's important to think about access to information. So those parents were trying to make a decision. They saw the weather report. They're trying to decide, can my son or daughter wear jeans tomorrow? Will this parka that we use, is that acceptable, or does it have to be the school hoodie and that kind of thing? And so as much as I'd like to say we can get out in front of each of these situations, I think it might be a good idea to put some language in the dress code, in the student code of conduct that kind of addresses these types of things. So if parents have a question, they have a point of reference, a place to go. So yeah, well, the weather forecast is X tomorrow. Let me see if that's, in the code of conduct and the dress code. It's one of the areas that the parents do pay attention to is the dress code. The kids definitely pay attention to the dress code and that kind of thing. So we talked in cabinet about if we were to do something, where would we put a change in policy or rules or regulations? And at first we thought policy, because that makes sense. But parents don't know where our board policies are, and they don't know how to find them and that kind of thing. But the code of conduct and the dress code are things that they have they can access more easily. And then, we hand out copies of the dress code at the beginning of the year. We give the code of conduct out and sign the form, all that kind of thing. So I think it might be a good idea for the Code of Conduct Committee to take a look at some possible cold weather language to put in the dress code.
Mrs.
Oh,
Simchick.
thank you. I envision it a certain way, is a real quick, this is a quick fix, boom. Next code of conduct update, you put in a clause that says universal cold weather attire exception, dash, coats, scarves, blah, 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 long leggings, da-da-da-da-da. Upon a cold weather alert, the school district will send out an announcement that there'll be a universal cold weather attire acceptable in place. And then the Connect Ed, and boom, it's done. That's would be my fix, but obviously you want to committee it and do all that, that's fine. But
Workshop it.
I think that it's a common sense thing. I think Mr. Susi is right, but I do know you have people like myself. A rule is a rule is a rule is a rule. That my kid could kill me for. But I do think that cross-covering it in the code of conduct, having the Connect Ed go out, and then having it broad to all schools is a must, because you will have people's perception on what cold is. 30's not cold, or 40's not cold, or 50's not, 50, under 50 it's cold. So it just has to be his call, but with an exception as to what that attire is. So I think that's my input.
Okay. I think it's great that we're having this conversation, because I did see where it happened to be a magnet school, but it went out. You can come in cold weather attire that is the approved sweater with no branding, with blah, blah, blah. This is not an opportunity to free dress. And I was like, oh, I don't know that was the intent of the announcement, but let's circle back on that. So clearly, there needs to be some, expectations communicated, to school leaders. It's great that they have the power, but at the same time, it has to be within a certain framework. So I think it's good that the concept that we're moving this as part of our dress code. What's been mentioned a couple times is access to information, and that is important. A parent asked me if it's possible, and this is probably for Mr. Green, the Connect Ed calls or anything, is there anywhere on our website where we have an audio file that a parent can go, if they miss it, let's say they're in a spotty cellar and they catch half of it and they're like, and then there's no I missed it, there's no repeat or whatever. Is it possible to go catch those as a WAV file or whatever, audio files?
They're currently not posted. That's something we can certainly research. There shouldn't be any reason why we couldn't export those and post them as we do press releases and have archived communication calls. So we'll certainly take that back. And
Great. I think that'd be tremendously helpful. And just a link to that audio file. Also, if you do an e-blast or text or whatever, I know that you're looking into those possibilities as well for communicating with parents, because that's really, we need to catch up with the 21st century and the way folks communicate. That's it. I think, do you have all the direction you need?
We do.
Dr. Rendell? Outstanding. Okay, good. All right, on to my item, which is, I'll be very, very quick here. Received a letter, as the chair does. Chairs Searcy and Simchek, you know how this works. We get all the wonderful news. The Florida Legislature Joint Legislative Auditing Committee sent us a nice happygram here. On December 7, 2017, the committee adopted a motion to direct the Indian River County School District Board to provide a written explanation of the status of corrective action that has been taken to the committee for each audit finding that was reported in the fiscal year 2015-16. The good news is we've already taken action. We just need to report and tell them what we've done, and actually by our action tonight in funding the TEC. And I've had a conversation with Dr. Rendell, and I just wanted to discuss it among the board, make sure that there's clear direction or whatever to respond to this. But the two audit findings that they asked us to respond to, or to which they asked us to respond, are the workforce education programs, the district carrying forward a large balance of workforce education funds, $1.7 million, or 43% of the amount available to be expended, and audit finding number 5, which is the district reporting inaccurate instructional contact hours for the adult general education classes. Before we begin the discussion, Dr. Rendell, would you like to weigh in? Or?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So those findings were from a previous audit, and the board was given copies of that audit.
Sure.
That letter basically is to say, okay, what have you done to correct these findings of the audit? That first audit finding was that carry forward in workforce development funds that we've discussed several times. So that carry forward of those workforce development funds is the seed money for the relocation and expansion of the Technical Center for Career and Adult Education. So we have definitely met their request to at least develop a plan for the expenditure of those funds. We're going to be able to tell them, not only have we developed a plan, we're executing the plan, and theoretically those funds are expended. You know, they're being expended as we speak. The second one was how we calculated or how we recorded clock hours for adult education. Mm-hmm. And we've already changed the way that we do that. It's already been vetted and approved. So we just need to, craft a response and explain how we've made those changes and how they are yielding the proper results, that the clock hours are being accounted for accurately. Mr. Morrison, did I miss anything?
No, sir, you've covered it well. If Mr. Green wants to add anything additional, but we have actually modified the system to provide the teachers with alerts to make sure that attendance is taken. We've provided training. We've done a lot of things to make sure that that finding is corrected, and we will put together the response and send off to the JLAC.
Okay.
So it's not been responded to yet?
No.
I thought I understood you said it's already been responded to.
No, sir. We have, thank you for asking that question. We have until March 12th, 2017 to address a response to the Honorable Jennifer Sullivan, Chair of the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee. So that, so I guess the direction is to have him prepare the letter and get us good. Outstanding. Okay, that is my discussion item. And with that, any further discussion? 8:43. All right. Very good. With that, we'll move on to school board member matters. We'll start down there at the end with school board member.
Somehow I'm at the end, but I always go first, but that is
Well, it's
fine.
kinda
No,
left
that
to
is
right.
fine.
You
Yeah,
want me to
that's-
start
no,
down
no,
here?
no.
I'm happy to.
No, that's good, I'm
Okay.
good. Happy New Year to everyone. Welcome back to this is the first board meeting, official board meeting we've had in 2018, and I hope everyone is off to a great start. On the day before school started on January 3rd, Dr. Rendell, actually Principal Vernette, held a training for her teachers and Kids at Hope. And as many of you know, I've spent some time in Executive Roundtable, and one of the things that they do is support Kids at Hope in our schools. And Dodgertown Elementary has been chosen as a model school. So Dr. Rendell has some experience with Kids at Hope from St. Lucie County. He was actually in charge of that program when he was there, and he came and did a training for the teachers on doing something called a destination board. And the teachers put together this really neat board that was divided into 4 squares, and they talked about the things that were important to them in their life and how they got to where they currently are. And the goal of that was that teachers would then bring that back into their classroom and work with their students to show their students that you can make a plan for your life, that your station in life is only limited by your imagination, and that you have the opportunity to be whatever it is you want to be, but that's going to require you making certain choices to get there. And for teachers to be able to share that personal experience with their students, and for their students to see that they are able to affect change in their lives and give them hope of being able to accomplish a lot of different things. That was really neat, and I know that teachers entered classrooms at Dodgertown Elementary on January 4th, and they actually did some of these, worked on these boards with their students. So it was really powerful for me, and I just continue to be a part of the Kids at Hope process and working at Dodgertown and with our other schools. So I just wanted to share that. I was able to participate in the Martin Luther King Day Parade. All 4 kids were out again. We rode on Rosewood's float and VBE's float. 14 schools participated in the parade. It was a great showing by Indian River County. The 2 bands were there, and many of our staff members were there. It was just really, again, a wonderful parade to be a part of. I was very proud to be there and to be a part of it and to experience that and to be able to show that we truly believe in every student, no exceptions, and we live that message. I attended the Gifford Library reopening. That's very neat. They had some damage at GYAC at the Gifford Library after the hurricane, so they've reopened that library. They have adult books there as well, like adult fiction and different things. And the kids came in and they're all getting library cards, and they were very excited about it. So that was really neat to see that library back open in business. That's run by Indian River County Library, the library system. So just a really great library. If you can stop by and say hello, I know they'd love to see you. Literacy kickoff yesterday morning. This is Literacy Week here in the state of Florida and Indian River County. And man, I am so impressed with how many different things our schools are doing. Elementary, middle, high schools. It's really exciting. Yesterday we held a kickoff party at Treasure Coast Elementary School, and we had a lot of different community members come out. Sebastian Police came out, Chief Curry from Vero Beach Police, Chief Touchberry. So great for the kids to see our law enforcement out reading in other classrooms. Michelle Morris from Sebastian Police, Officer Gillette. So Larry Reisman was there, Colleen Wixon. So some people from media. We had some community members. Principal Tetcher had her SAC and some members of her PTA, and we had some district staff out as well. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that came out and read to students. It was a wonderful experience, and I always love to bring the community into our schools. And then last night was just awesome. Teacher of the Year, Employee of the Year, 2 very deserving people. One, I was so impressed with all of the teachers that came across that we were able to shake hands with and learn more about their stories. This has been a really neat process to be a part of this year, and I thank Dr. Endell and staff and Kristen McMillan, the PIO, for making it so thoughtful and heartfelt and really touching on the importance that everyone in this district works together to educate students, and just to be able to celebrate that together was lovely. So thank you for allowing us to be such a big part of it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Mrs. Simchik.
So you had to go first, but you get to say all the good stuff that we
Right.
attended, and then we don't have to say anything, but I would have concurred.
Not next time.
Not next time. Go down
There you
that
go.
one.
See?
But I do have to say that last night's experience was wonderful. It always is. The energy's charged, and I want to congratulate every Teacher of the Year and Employee of the Year for each and every school, because that is something that I know some of them, and they were, although they weren't on the top, the winners, they were proud and well represented by their schools. That energy, I just love it every time. I really do. I love the big faces on the stick. I love everything about it. But I do want to also thank Mr. Stanley, as well as the Encore group that was here today, and I'm glad you did. They're such talented young people, and if you went to the Prism concert, you know that music, I love the music programs in our schools, and I'm very, to see young kids come out 2 evenings in their life when I know that, just shows how much passion they have for their talent. So I'm very happy about that. And then I wanted to congratulate again Ms. D'Agresta. Ms. D'Agresta has always served this board and me. For me, she has been, you have to trust your attorney. You have to feel good about your attorney. You have to feel you're getting solid advice. And I will tell you, it comes from a place of neutrality, and just so that I can gather the facts and weigh in. And I do appreciate that quality in you, that skill in you, and you deserve that award, and I'm so glad you got that award.
There's no crying at school board.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Zork, we'll move it around.
Shaking it up.
That's right.
Well, I'm going
So
to
he
keep
gets to
it
be in
short
vice chair.
because, or maybe we should just, I could probably go until 9. Is that okay? Give me
Hey, it
10
is my
minutes.
birthday.
Oh, it
Nicole,
is?
birthday.
Should we sing happy birthday?
Birthday protocol is in place.
3 minutes,
Should we-
3 minutes.
Order 66.
Okay.
Do I
No,
recognize for 2 minutes certain? No, I'm just kidding.
See what-
Go.
No, I love you guys. You're just, you make this job fun. I'm going to tell you that. No, I know what I was going to say. The recycling program, it was, I really appreciate the county, and I appreciate the grants that we've received to kick that off. I hope it's something that we can expand on. It was a great program to participate in. The science fair is coming up on Saturday. I'm excited about going out and seeing all these elaborate inventions and experiments and these projects that these students are doing. It's really impressive. So if anyone has time, I hope that you can come out and just take a look at what's going on at the Gifford Middle School, and just take a look at the projects that the various students have put together. And I also do want to say thank you to Kristen. Her and Mrs. Cummings did an amazing job in putting all the Teacher and Employee of the Year events together. It was a very special night for them. I kept hearing just kudos to you guys for everything that you did, make them feel special. So thank you for putting them first and making them feel special. So, and with that, I think that's it.
Close? All right. Mr. Searcy.
Oh, God, right.
Mr. Searcy. Vice Chair Searcy.
I just wanted to say
Please
a
go
couple
last.
things, as I usually do, and I've got 1 minute. I attended the CNA graduation, the nursing graduation ceremony, I think back in December, and that's a bunch of exciting folks. I mean, they were excited to be there. A sense of accomplishment was there, and the smiles on their faces, and I guess the relief. You could almost hear the air come out of them. We made it. But they did a great job, and I enjoyed being there. But I have been to a lot of school board meetings, but I have never seen the excitement that I saw from that young man that came up and won that Christmas card art contest, and that was, I hope that somehow or another we have that on film, but that was one of the most exciting things I've ever seen happen at a school board meeting. So we need to have a few laughs every now and then, and that was, just expression on his face was unbelievable. So that's my comments, and my minute is up, okay?
All right. Well, I'm going to limit myself to 2 things, cut my list into a third here. Literacy Week, if you can, please be a guest reader. I'll be at Pelican Island Elementary Friday morning. Science Fair, I'll be joining Mrs. Zork out there. This old science teacher is going to go see some neat projects and do some judging. And I think they may still have a need for some judges. If you can, please sign up. If not, please come to the public viewing or display. I think it starts at about 11:45 on Saturday. And then we'll be recognizing the Science Fair winners, the 26th, I believe it is, Sunday afternoon at Sebastian River High School between 3 and 5, and then the upper division at the following Thursday at about 6 p.m. at Sebastian River High School. But the best thing you can do to keep up with it is follow our Facebook, Twitter, all of that. Kristen, or reach out to Kristen if you're trying to find a way to engage in the community on some of these great projects that this phenomenal staff, teachers, and administrators are doing. And with that, I also want to say happy birthday, Dale Simchek.
Are we going to sing?
How many years?
Here we go.
I will.
Happy birthday to you.
You're not going to say that?
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday, dear Dale.
Dale.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And with no further business before the board, we are adjourned.